Chapter 2009. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. The Dharma Supreme's face gradually regained its initial calmness. His innate meridians started to gather spiritual energy again. He stood up slowly, with his hands behind his back and his long hair fluttering in the wind. He gazed at the rising sun and said, "Brother Bu, although you are my enemy, thank you for talking to me tonight." Bu Luqing smiled bitterly. "Actually, you should talk to Wu Jueqing." The Dharma Supreme smiled and shook his head lightly. "Sad people can't talk to sad people. I also have a desire to confide in him, and so does he. When the two of us are together, no matter how you listen to it, it's just the same story. When you know about yourself, you also know about him. What else is there to talk about?" He laughed and took a step forward. His figure was still in front of him, but his real body was already thousands of feet away. "Brother Bu, I'll wait for you to find me anytime and fight to the death. If you don't find me, I'll find you after my injuries are healed." His voice faded and Bu Luqing didn't chase after him. He let out a long sigh and stomped his feet. Then he suddenly flew up and disappeared without a trace. With a swoosh, 3 people appeared at the place where Bu Luqing and the Dharma Supreme were talking: Chu Yang, Zi Xiecheng, and Wu Qianqian. Chu Yang frowned and let out a long sigh. "So, this is the Tribulation Sword Master." Zi Xiecheng also said meaningfully, "So, this is the Tribulation Sword Master." She turned and looked at Chu Yang. "Chu Yang, what did you think of?" Chu Yang took a deep breath and smiled lightly. "Let's wait and see." Zi Xiecheng laughed and said, "But I may not be able to see it." Chu Yang said indifferently, "You will see it in the future. It's useless to say anything now. I promise that I won't do that to my brothers. Do you believe me?" For 10,000 years, the 8 generations of Tribulation Sword Masters have been like this. How can you, Chu Yang, be an exception? But I, Chu Yang, must be an exception. I must be an exception. Anyway, I've already died once. I'd rather die than do such a despicable, shameless, dirty, and beastly thing. Zi Xiecheng smiled meaningfully. Wu Qianqian opened her eyes and looked at the two in confusion. He couldn't understand what the two of them were talking about. "Let's go. Let's go back." Zi Xiecheng smiled faintly and was about to grab the two of them and fly back. At this moment, the sky suddenly brightened. The sky was about to brighten. However, Zi Xiecheng's hand, which was about to grab the two of them, suddenly loosened. She looked at the sky with a solemn expression. Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian couldn't help but look up. At the edge of the sky where the morning sun rose, there was a purple cloud moving rapidly. In almost an instant, it was above their heads. Chu Yang was surprised. He had never seen a cloud fly so fast. In the blink of an eye, dark clouds gathered overhead, followed by lightning and thunder. The light that had just appeared on the horizon was immediately suppressed. The sound of thunder was like a dull drum, constantly beating in the sky above their heads. The 3 of them felt oppressed and heavy in their hearts at the same time, as if something bad was about to happen. The clouds were getting lower and lower. The pressure was getting heavier and heavier. Zi Xiecheng's expression became more and more solemn. Chu Yang muttered, "What is this? Is this the power of heaven?" Zi Xiecheng bit her lips and silently looked at the clouds that were getting lower and lower, as if they had condensed into a solid substance. Suddenly, she struck Wu Qianqian's neck with her palm. Wu Qianqian fainted without making a sound. "What are you doing?" Chu Yang was shocked. Zi Xiecheng looked at Chu Yang with a complicated expression and said softly, "They are here to find me. My existence has affected the balance of the heavens. And I used the heavenly sun-purple cloud in my attack just now. I was discovered. This matter cannot be known to Qianqian." Chu Yang was shocked and dumbfounded. "Then what should we do?" Zi Xiecheng took a breath and said, "For experts like us, no matter which plane we are in, we can't destroy the balance of the plane. If we just stay there, there won't be any problems. But once we reveal enough power to destroy the balance, we will be punished. If I were a native, it would be easier, but I'm not. Anbu Luqing and the Dharma Supreme are the top figures of this heavens. So, when I interfered in their battle, it became such a situation. Chu Yang was shocked. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Since you already knew, why did you still intervene? Zi Xiecheng's expression was a little complicated. She said, I have to leave sooner or later. Now, it's just a little earlier than expected. The only difference is that I can leave on my own, or I can be caught by someone. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. Caught? Usually, when there is such a situation, you will be caught and not be put in a spot. It's just that you are not allowed to stay here any longer. Zi Xiecheng looked deeply at Chu Yang and said softly, Chu Yang, you must take care. You must take care. What if I don't let you go? Chu Yang asked in a low voice. Zi Xiecheng's delicate body trembled, and she smiled bitterly. You won't let me go? This is heaven's authority. Chu Yang sneered. In my life, I have always been going against heaven. Heaven's authority? So what if I offend it one more time? Zi Xiecheng sighed in her heart. How could she not know that she would be caught if she revealed her true strength today? But she didn't dare to stay any longer, especially beside Chu Yang. Zi Xiecheng had never spent so much time with a young man in her life. And she had never appreciated and loved any other young man as much as she did Chu Yang. Since the beginning of the Black Blood Forest, she took pleasure in torturing Chu Yang. Although she was also collecting Tao state energy, she also wanted to see how far this stubborn young man could go. But she didn't expect that no matter what, as long as it was a battle, Chu Yang would be full of energy. No matter how cruel it was, no matter how many times he failed, Chu Yang's fighting spirit would only be higher and would never diminish. The more he was defeated, the braver he became. Along the way, Zi Xiecheng was also constantly squeezing Chu Yang's bottom line. She even thought, when I'm forcing out your last bit of potential, can you still be so stubborn? But all the way until they reached Tianji City, although Chu Yang was exhausted and bruised every day, he never once said anything soft. The most terrible thing was that even when he said something soft, he was actually teasing her. Zi Xiecheng became more and more unconvinced, and her attacks became more and more ruthless. Chu Yang's resistance also became stronger and stronger. Until Chu Yang reached Tianji City, the two of them fought more frequently. Zi Xiecheng couldn't squeeze out all of Chu Yang's potential. Until that time when Chu Yang was breaking through, Zi Xiecheng had no choice but to use the cruelest method to help him. Zi Xiecheng absolutely believed that even a supreme martial artist wouldn't be able to withstand that kind of cruel punishment. But Chu Yang came up with his own idea to let her torture him. But he persevered and even broke through. At that moment, Zi Xiecheng almost shed tears. It was at that moment that Zi Xiecheng felt that her state of mind had changed. In the past, she was a loner. Other than wanting to repay a debt of gratitude and wanting to see her benefactor and say thank you, she didn't have any other concerns. Her heart was like flowing water, unrestrained and unrestrained like the clouds, free and unrestrained. But from that day onwards, her heart seemed to have an additional concern. And this concern was Chu Yang. She even had a thought, I don't want Chu Yang to go through that kind of pain again. That was why she helped Chu Yang with this and that. She even brought Chu Yang out today to let him watch the supreme martial artist peak battle, to pave the way for his future and to reduce his bottleneck. But after that period of time, Zi Xiecheng felt that she couldn't let go. Sometimes she would even dream about it. At this moment, Zi Xiecheng finally felt that something was wrong. That was why she suddenly decided to expose her strength today and wanted to leave this place. He was going to leave anyway. It didn't matter if he left sooner or later. Since that was the case, it was better to do it sooner rather than later. Although she hadn't replenished her Tao state energy, what she had now was enough for her to withstand the heavenly wrath once and then enter the great Tao void to replenish her Tao state energy. If she continued to stay, she was afraid that she would feel even more uncomfortable. If she wanted to stay but couldn't bear to leave after replenishing her Tao state energy, that would be truly uncomfortable. That was why she didn't hesitate to attract the heavenly wrath to save herself from this emotional whirlpool. Although it would be very painful. Zi Xiecheng really didn't want to immerse herself in this emotional whirlpool even more. But just now, when Zi Xiecheng heard Chu Yang say, What if I don't let you go? Her heart suddenly felt sour and sweet. For a moment she actually had mixed feelings. But she immediately controlled herself and didn't say anything. You will be punished for going against the heavens, Zi Xiecheng said softly. She gently reached out her hand and touched Chu Yang's face. She said softly, after I leave, don't miss me. Live well and live your life well. Chu Yang stared at her and said irritably, didn't you hear? I mean, what if I don't let you go? What can I do to make you stay? He actually started to question her. If it was in normal times, Zi Xiecheng would usually give him a slap and then kick him on his butt to make him fly in the air again. But now, Zi Xiecheng felt a sense of satisfaction in her heart. She actually felt a little sweet towards this rough reprimand. She bit her lips, with a satisfied smile in her eyes, and said softly, there's no other way. Chu Yang was stunned. A thunderclap resounded in the sky, and a majestic sound of thunder rolled over. It seemed to be coming from afar, and gradually resounded above their heads. It was deafening. At the same time, a huge golden hand suddenly stretched out from the clouds in the sky. It carried a majestic aura that could not be defied, and it suddenly grabbed down. A voice said indifferently in the sky, how dare you, lowly servant? How dare you break the balance of space? Quickly follow me back to be interrogated. Zi Xiecheng's face turned pale and her lips trembled. Then, she looked deeply at Chu Yang's face, grabbed Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian, and threw them far away. Chu Yang screamed crazily and twisted his waist in midair. She had only thrown him halfway, and he suddenly stopped. Then he rushed back like a lightning, begging for votes. Rushing to the first place, crazily saying, I want 10 more votes. I want 10 more votes. I'm already crazy. Chapter 2010. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Wu Qianqian flew far away and landed on a flat ground. She fainted and scathed. Go back! Zi Xiecheng shouted at Chu Yang. Her white robe and hair fluttered in the wind. Chu Yang turned a deaf ear to her and ran back. Zi Xiecheng had a complicated look in her eyes. She bit her plump lips and looked at Chu Yang's running figure. Her eyes seemed to be glistening with tears. The golden hand in the sky suddenly descended and grabbed at Zi Xiecheng. Zi Xiecheng did not move. She just looked at Chu Yang's running figure in a daze. She did not dodge the giant hand in the sky. It was about to grab Zi Xiecheng's shoulder, but Chu Yang was still 400 feet away. The golden hand emitted a bright golden light and covered Zi Xiecheng's body. Zi Xiecheng's face showed a trace of pain. She slowly rose up and opened her mouth towards Chu Yang, who was running on the ground. She seemed to be saying something. Chu Yang could not hear it. Judging from the shape of her mouth, she seemed to be saying, take care. Chu Yang felt a sudden pain in his heart. He howled like a wounded beast. He looked up to the sky and roared. With a swoosh, he pulled out Calamity Sword. Then, he let out a furious roar and soared into the sky. At this moment, Chu Yang used all his strength, all his potential and all his willpower to launch the most powerful attack since he started his cultivation journey. The long sword instantly formed a huge storm. Chu Yang roared hoarsely. A ray of cold light pierces 10,000 feet. What harm is there in slaughtering the whole world? A sharp will buried deep will not change. A gathering of wind and clouds is the emperor. A sword blade that has been famous for all eternity. Wind and clouds move from east to west. The sun and the moon are my lightning generals. Splitting mountains and breaking peaks, the sky is blood red. A blade across the sky for 10,000 years. This road leads to the netherworld. Cutting off the sentimental traveler. Everything ends where the blade shines. Iron walls and bronze walls fight without end. What more can one ask for in this life? Clouds and clouds gather together. You have no worries when I'm alive. The crazy sword aura formed a torrent. They shot up from the ground in a majestic manner, leaving behind a dazzling rainbow in the air. They carried an indestructible will and a determination that would rather die than regret as they shot towards the giant golden hand in the air. You want to leave? I won't stop you. But you have to leave on your own. We can't be captured. Chu Yang shouted crazily. And L, and G, net. The sword point, sword edge, and sword guard all let out excited sword cries at the same time. This was the first time the four parts of the sword had worked together to attack. A piercingly cold, murderous aura instantly froze the vast sky. Zi Xiecheng's expression changed drastically. She struggled with all her might and shouted, "Don't!" It actually broke free from the golden hand and flew down. There was a sound of surprise in midair, as if it was surprised that Zi Xiecheng was able to break free from its grasp. The huge golden hand paused for a moment before continuing to grab her. But he saw Chu Yang's sword light attacking him like a thunderbolt. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The big hand turned and slapped towards Chu Yang. A dignified voice said, "You're just a grain of rice, yet you dare to offend the heavenly might." Zi Xiecheng let out a shrill cry and shot out like a bolt of lightning. It was obvious that she was extremely anxious. She was not even a match for this huge golden hand. Chu Yang was just a speck of light that was the size of a grain of rice, and he actually attacked it. Wasn't this courting death? But Chu Yang had already flown up at full speed and was coming towards her. That huge golden hand also passed by Zi Xiecheng. It grabbed towards Chu Yang fiercely. Zi Xiecheng couldn't make it in time. She shouted anxiously, "I'll go back with you. I'm willing to accept the punishment. Don't hurt him." "I was going to leave, but I don't have enough Tao state power to break the barrier. Did you hear that? I'm willing to go back with you." But that huge golden hand was completely indifferent. It continued to grab towards Chu Yang. The voice said indifferently, "Those who offend the heavenly might, die." Zi Xiecheng was instantly panicked and heartbroken. And L, and G, net. "Chu Yang, I told you not to be rash. But you..." Her body was still rushing forward, but her mind seemed to have gone blank. It was as if she had lost consciousness. Chu Yang roared furiously. The 10 moves of the Tribulation Sword technique merged into an unprecedented torrent. In just a moment, it violently hit the huge golden hand. The huge golden hand paused and pushed forward. In the clouds, that voice suddenly let out an "oh." It wasn't painful, but it was full of shock. Then, the huge golden hand suddenly retracted. Even its strength seemed to have disappeared. Chu Yang's Tribulation Sword came into contact with the huge golden hand. With a bang, Chu Yang felt as if he had directly hit a mountain made of star steel. The force of the impact made Chu Yang cry out and fly back. But it was just this contact that the huge golden hand suddenly retracted its strength. How sharp was the Tribulation Sword? Not to mention the power of 10 moves of the Tribulation Sword technique at the same time? Countless strands of Tribulation Sword chi exploded on the giant hand. With a boom, a finger of the giant golden hand was cut off at the same time. The finger fell down and landed on the ground. It actually smashed a deep hole in the ground. It lay at the bottom of the hole. In midair, that voice let out another. The huge golden hand stopped in midair. Zi Xiecheng rushed over and saw Chu Yang lying on the ground with a pale face, bleeding from his 7 orifices. He was already unconscious and on the verge of death. Looking at his injuries, it was obvious that his internal organs had been severely damaged. Zi Xiecheng bit her lip and hurriedly treated his injuries. She was worried about that huge golden hand. As she channeled her energy into Chu Yang, she looked up and said, "Please don't move for the time being. Let me treat his injuries first. Okay?" There was actually a hint of pleading in her voice. For Zi Xiecheng, who had been strong all her life, this was the first time she spoke to someone like this. The voice in midair didn't speak, but that huge golden hand stopped in midair. It also didn't move. After a long while, that deep voice said, "Your Tao state power is insufficient? You can't break through the space barrier?" Zi Xiecheng said as she treated Chu Yang's injuries, "Yes." That voice muttered to himself, "But this little... Why is he holding the Emperor's sword? Could he be..." Suddenly, he snorted and said, "Then leave this place immediately after you finish collecting the Tao state power and replenish your energy." Zi Xiecheng was overjoyed and said, "Okay. Once I'm done collecting, I'll leave immediately." That voice snorted and said, "I'll keep an eye on you." If you don't leave by then, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Suddenly, with a whoosh, the dark clouds shrank back. Then, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly rose up and disappeared. In the far east, a red sun rose. Everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened at all. Zi Xiecheng was actually stunned. What was going on? This messenger, why did he leave so easily? He had come with such great momentum, yet he had actually given up and left. Not only did he not want to capture her, he had even left half of his finger behind. This was too inconceivable. Such a powerful person actually left after being hurt by Chu Yang, who was like an ant in his eyes. Zi Xiecheng took the time to treat Chu Yang's injuries and carefully thought about it. She was puzzled. Suddenly she thought of something that the voice said, "But this little. Why is he holding the Emperor's sword? Could he be?" Suddenly, her heart trembled. Could it be because of Chu Yang? The Emperor's sword? What emperor? What level was he? Chu Yang actually held the Emperor's sword. What did this mean? If this was the case, the one who folded the Heavens continent back then must be this Emperor? And the Calamity Sword was the sword of this Emperor? All the previous Calamity Sword owners had always been. Zi Xiecheng was lost in thought. Her heart was very confused. With a groan, Chu Yang woke up. Before he opened his eyes, he sat up suddenly. But it affected his injuries and he couldn't help but groan in pain. He opened his eyes and saw Zi Xiecheng in front of him. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. You weren't caught. He was chased away by you? Zi Xiecheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She revealed a gentle smile and said softly, "Yes, he was chased away by you." Chu Yang laughed and shook his head. Don't I know my own limits? I don't have such great abilities. Suddenly he blinked and said, "Big Sister Zi, your voice was so gentle just now. It gave me goosebumps." Zi Xiecheng was angry and wanted to laugh at the same time. She raised her eyebrows and stared at him. She reached out and grabbed his ear, twisting it. If you know your own limits, why did you not care about your life and collide with it? Do you know that you will die if you do that? Chu Yang grimaced. Ouch, 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 say it if it hurts. Zi Xiecheng added more strength and roared fiercely. Chu Yang turned his head in the direction where his ear was twisted. He grinned, scratched his head and laughed. It was only after I collided with it that I realized my limits. Before I collided with it, I didn't. Zi Xiecheng wanted to flare up and twist his ears again, but for some unknown reason, a smile suddenly rushed to her heart and she let out a chuckle. Chu Yang felt as if he had been pardoned. Big sister, quickly let go of your hand. I don't want to tire you out. That would be my fault. Zi Xiecheng finally let go of her hand. She smiled and said, "If you're afraid of pain, behave yourself in the future." Chu Yang rolled out a few steps and bowed. He said with a bitter face, Yes, I won't dare to do it again." Why you like my mother? Zi Xiecheng said angrily, "What did you say?" Chu Yang covered his head and scurried away. After a round of laughter, it was as if the previous incident didn't happen at all. Neither of them mentioned that Zi Xiecheng wanted to leave. But both of them seemed to feel that there was something more in their hearts, something more changed, and the relationship between the two of them seemed to be a little different. But Chu Yang wisely didn't continue to think about it. Zi Xiecheng also suppressed this feeling deep in her heart. Both of them knew that it was impossible for them to be with each other. Chu Yang laughed and was about to carry Wu Qianqian back. After taking a few steps, he suddenly realized that there was a big pit in front of him. Chu Yang went forward to take a look and saw that there was a golden light inside. He couldn't help but be surprised. He said, "What is this? Can the monthly votes be first? I'll continue to write." Chapter 2011. Zi Xiecheng pursed her lips and said, "I don't know what kind of luck you have to have such a good thing. Quickly go down and bring it up. This is your spoils of war." My spoils of war? Chu Yang was surprised. When the golden finger fell down, he had already fainted. Naturally, he didn't know that he could create such an earth-shattering result. Although the other party went easy on him, Chu Yang picked it up and immediately groaned at the bottom of the pit. "Damn it, my injuries haven't healed yet. I can't move it. What is this thing? It's too heavy." Then he threw an incomplete version of the heavy pill into his mouth. Zi Xiecheng couldn't help but laugh. She said, "If you can't move it, then you can stay down here. I'll go get Qian." With a swoosh, she left. This woman, Chu Yang secretly cursed under his breath. Zi Xiecheng pretended not to hear him and left. Chu Yang sat down below and mobilized his energy to heal his injuries. Then, he suddenly realized that when he was mobilizing his energy, he suddenly felt that the energy in the air suddenly increased. The pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth rushed to his mouth and nose, almost suffocating him. Where did such pure and rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth come from? Chu Yang opened his eyes in shock and saw that the golden thing was emitting rich spiritual energy. As he breathed, the spiritual energy turned into 2 long dragons and rushed towards his nostrils. It wasn't a waste at all. The serious injuries in his body were almost instantly healed by the incomplete version of the heavy pill. When the spiritual energy rushed in, he actually recovered instantly and his cultivation even improved. It was only a few breaths. Damn it! Chu Yang jumped up in shock. What good thing is this? It's so awesome! He hurried over. He pulled it and looked. This thing was the size of a millstone, but it was heavy, at least 7,000 to 8,000 kilograms. Chu Yang scratched his head and walked around this thing. He said to himself, "Why does it look like the pad of a finger? This piece on the edge, could it be a fingernail? But where can there be such a big hand?" Suddenly, he remembered the big hand that grabbed Zi Xiecheng before he fainted. He couldn't help but tremble. Could this be from that big hand? He recalled Zi Xiecheng's words, "Those are your spoils of war." Chu Yang cursed. His eyes widened. "Am I really that awesome? You actually managed to chop off a piece of this huge hand?" Chu Yang felt a lingering fear in his heart as he thought about the world-destroying might of that big hand. He felt that his calves were about to cramp up. His legs felt weak and his back felt cold. He sat down on the ground with a plop sound. Beads of cold sweat continuously appeared on his forehead. "Oh my God!" Minister Chu muttered. Chu Yang gazed at this half-severed finger as he pondered. Looking at the power of the golden hand, his sword was powerful. But it shouldn't have hurt him. Why did he chop off a piece of it? There was something strange about this matter. This half of the gold finger ended along with Chu Yang. Surprisingly, the spiritual aura on it no longer emanated, and it returned to being a quiet, millstone-sized, half-finger. Chu Yang stretched out his hand and tried to poke it. He discovered that this thing actually had a faint elasticity. It doesn't feel like human flesh. Chu Yang scratched his head in confusion. At this moment, Zi Xiecheng's telepathic voice rang in his ears. "Keep the gold finger. We're going back." Chu Yang responded with an "oh." He hurriedly kept the gold finger into the space. As soon as he opened the space, he saw the sword spirit asking excitedly, "What good stuff did you get? Why is it so powerful? I could feel it even when I was in seclusion." Chu Yang rolled his eyes. Then he heard the sword spirit exclaim, "Oh my God! Isn't this a divine bone?" Chu Yang was startled. He asked, "What divine bone?" The sword spirit looked at the gold finger greedily and murmured, "Divine bone. Oh my God!" Annoyed, Chu Yang picked up this half-severed finger and threw it into the space. It hit the sword spirit squarely in the face. The sword spirit nimbly fell to the ground with a loud thud. Even though his mouth was stuffed by the gold finger, he still managed to mutter, "Oh, the Star Lake. I'm so happy." Chu Yang was speechless. The sword spirit finally moved it away from his face. Suddenly, he cried, "But I'm in pain too." "What are you in pain about?" Chu Yang wondered. "Didn't you just say you're so happy?" The sword spirit said painfully, "I said I saw the divine bone and I'm so happy. But I'm cultivating my spirit now, so I can't absorb the power in it. I'm in pain." Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, "I've been worried that you'd steal it. You can't absorb it? That's great." The sword spirit was speechless. He stopped talking. His silence piqued Chu Yang's interest. "What's the use of this divine bone?" The sword spirit said, "It's very useful. You can cultivate it. The spiritual energy emanating from it is the most original spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This large piece is probably enough for you to absorb for a while. Also, after you've absorbed the spiritual energy, you can refine this divine bone a little and it will become a divine weapon. Its hardness and sharpness can be called the best in this heaven apart from the tribulation sword. So good. Chu Yang was excited. You can go to sleep now. I'm in seclusion. The sword spirit was speechless and defended himself. He rolled his eyes and continued his seclusion. Chu Yang jumped out of the pit and saw Wu Qianqian looking at him curiously. She asked, Chu Yang, why did you jump into the pit? Before Chu Yang could answer, Zi Sheqing said, he was smacked down by me. Wu Qianqian was shocked. The three of them packed up. Zi Sheqing grabbed one of them with each hand and tore open the space with the other. She stepped back. Feng Yuro and Yu Lingxue had already searched the entire Tianji city but didn't find Wu Qianqian. Both of them knew that as long as Zi Sheqing said Wu Qianqian was fine, then she was really fine. But if they didn't see their disciple alive in front of them, they wouldn't be at ease. Seeing that the sun had already risen, the couple sat in Jiaxiu building, speechless. Where did she go? Feng Yuro asked. Did the elder lie to us? Yu Lingxue said, definitely not. With that elder's cultivation, she probably wouldn't be interested in lying to us. Although he said so, his eyes were still looking at the door. Feng Yuro said, that's true. At this moment, a clear and cold voice said, catch your disciple. Then there was a whoosh. With a whoosh, a figure flew in through the window from the sky and landed in Feng Yuro's arms. Feng Yuro was overjoyed. She said, thank you, elder. Zi Sheqing said, you're welcome. Goodbye. Feng Yuro hurried out with Wu Qianqian in her arms. Elder, I still have something to ask you. When she came out, there was no one in front of her. She couldn't help but feel lost. Yu Lingxue comforted her from behind. This elder doesn't have any ill intentions towards us. We'll have a chance to meet her. Since she said so, she'll definitely have a way to help us. Besides, we've been here for so many years, why would we care about a little more time? Feng Yuro sighed and said, you don't know. Every time I see other women carrying their children happily, I'm so envious. At this moment, Wu Qianqian in her arms moaned and woke up. Are you all right, Qianqian? What happened? Feng Yuro asked with concern. At the same time, she checked her disciple's body. After circulating her internal energy, she was relieved. Her disciple's clothes were neat and tidy, and she was still a virgin. She definitely didn't encounter any of those terrible things. Wu Qianqian said, I don't know either. It's just that, from Wu Qianqian's mouth, this matter was of course all the fault of the Lan clan. Moreover, after she was drugged, she was saved by Zi Sheqing. Then, Zi Sheqing brought her to look for Chu Yang. It was Chu Yang who went through a lot of trouble to get rid of the poison without ruining her reputation, and so on. This Chu Yang is really a good kid. He's really a kind and honest perfected lord. Feng Yuro sighed. Who are you talking about? Chu Yang? Yu Lingxue frowned and said, which Chu Yang? How many Chu Yangs do you know? Feng Yuro frowned and asked. I know. The sweetheart of Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing's disciple. His name is Chu Yang. Yu Lingxue's expression was strange. He said, could it be him? The sweetheart of Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing's disciple? Wu Qianqian was stunned. Was there such a coincidence? Who was Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing's disciple? Immediately. Under the questioning of Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro, Wu Qianqian followed what she had discussed with Zi Sheqing. Her answer was flawless. Moreover, she also said that the two 8th-grade martial saints of the Yi clan had once ambushed her at the Shueyu Lake and wanted to kill her. And of course, she was saved by Chu Yang that time. The two venerables were filled with boundless gratitude towards Chu Yang, but at the same time, they were furious at the Yi clan. Zi Sheqing knew that Feng Yuro was going to ask her about having children. But now, after Chu Yang's explanation, what she was most afraid of was that Moon Breeze would ask her about having children. How could she not quickly slip away? If he was caught and asked about this matter, it would be extremely embarrassing. He wouldn't even have a place to put his face. Besides, she was still carrying Chu Yang with her other hand. Now that she had already sent Wu Qianqian down, it seemed inappropriate to carry Chu Yang with one hand, so she just hugged him in her arms. Chu Yang was in luck this time. He only felt that he was suddenly surrounded by a soft and fragrant body. Minister Chu nestled happily in Zi Sheqing's arms, pretending to be asleep. He was even murmuring in his sleep. His face, however, intentionally or unintentionally, moved closer to Zi Sheqing's towering chest. Finally, blissful young Master Chu almost fainted. So big, so firm, so soft. Just as he was intoxicated, he was suddenly thrown to the ground with a bang. Immediately after, he was kicked in the butt and fell flat on his face. He heard Zi Sheqing scolding, "Stinky hooligan." Chu Yang smiled embarrassedly. When he opened his eyes, he saw that they had already returned to the Orchard Palace. But the next moment, Chu Yang and Zi Sheqing were stunned at the same time. Why was the door of the Orchard Palace wide open? It was so noisy inside. From the looks of it, it was as if a bandit had come. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He screamed, "Ooh," and rushed in fiercely. 10 chapters, as I said earlier, the first 10 chapters. But it's not the first. Since that's the case, I'll use 10 chapters to exchange for the first. Is that okay? I'm really at my wit's end. I can't take it anymore. I haven't slept for a day and a night. I'll just write a single chapter and go to sleep. I hope that tomorrow morning, I'll see everyone give me a surprise. To be continued. Chapter 2012. Part 7 Chapter 320 I have a clear conscience. The supreme martial artists sighed and were speechless. Xie Kuan nodded. It turned out that Chu Yang did not know what the operation was. Chu Yang only knew that there was a conspiracy against Wu Xian, but he did not know that there was another elder of the divine tribe. He was just an idiot who was being used as a tool by others. He was just a slightly smarter idiot. Yi Shifeng was naturally asking Chu Yang when the Lan clan would take action to snatch the elder of the divine tribe. However, Chu Yang was at a critical juncture and naturally thought that Yi Shifeng was asking when the Yi clan would take action to shift the blame. At that time, I told Brother Yi, "Take note, the Lan clan will definitely take action on the night of the 12th lunar month." Chu Yang said, "We are all smart people, we know when to stop." Yi Shifeng understood what I meant and laughed heartily. We drank to our heart's content before leaving. Yi Shifeng was a pervert. Yidi's face turned black. After paying a huge piece of spirit jade ginseng, he received a piece of deceptive news. This matter has been like this since the beginning. This is the origin of the Yi clan's information. Chu Yang said proudly, "Lord Yidi, if you don't believe me, you can call Yi Shifeng over, I will confront him on the spot." Yidi's face turned even darker. "Yi Shifeng is already dead, I'll call him over? Why don't you call him over? Why don't you try?" The supreme martial artist's expressions were also very interesting. This guy is really interesting, asking Yidi to confront a dead person? How could Chu Yang not know that Yi Shifeng was already dead? Even when Yi Shifeng died, he was beside him. Yi Shifeng's death was also caused by him. But now, he had to pretend that he did not know, and his pretense was flawless. He pretended to be righteous. "I believe you." Yidi pinched his nose and said while holding back his anger, "For more than 1,000 years, when have I ever held back my anger like this? And in front of a 10-year-old kid?" Yidi felt that his self-restraint was really good at this moment. If that's the case, then it's understandable that you told the Yi clan the information. However, the Shao clan did not participate in this and did not take any action. Why did you give us the information? 40 to 50 of our experts were killed last night, Shao Se said. Chu Yang retorted, "Since your Shao clan doesn't intend to take action or participate, then why did so many people die here?" Shao Se was speechless. Yidi laughed gloatingly and said, "That's right. Your Shao family didn't participate in the planning or the operation. Why did so many people die in our Yi family's place? Isn't it because of this little guy?" Shao Se said angrily. Kuan nodded. "But if you don't plan to take action, why did you send someone to buy information from him?" This little one, when someone was performing the soul control technique on him, he automatically dispersed his cultivation and dropped all his guard. This was equivalent to putting everything he had, completely and defenselessly, in the hands of the Dharma Supreme. Really, if one did not do anything wrong, one would not be afraid of ghosts knocking on the door. Chu Yang slowly turned around and said, "Elders, although I am young, I know what to do and what not to do. I have said and done. Since everyone came to me to buy information, I have also made a profit by selling it. As for what information everyone came to buy from me, I have also told you the truth. When I said the beginning of the 12th lunar month, it was the beginning of the 12th lunar month. The Lan clan had indeed taken action. My information was not wrong. Although it caused all the great clans to fight to the death because of this, I, Chu Yang, have a clear conscience. I have done right, I have done right. I am an upright person, I do things according to the rules. I am a doctor has the heart of a parent. My heart is broad and broad. Selfless. In this matter, yes, I have taken benefits. But those benefits, I should take them. To put it bluntly, it is inevitable that all the great clans will feel heartache when they suffer losses. But as long as my information is conclusive, accurate, and true, then it has nothing to do with me. If someone dies, it has even less to do with me. It should be, you can go and find whoever killed them. A life for a life. If you want to buy information, you also need to show your sincerity. It is that simple. If this matter is not about a beauty but about a treasure, then those who died fighting for the treasure would not go and find trouble with the person who sold you the treasure map, right? If you bought 40 steamed buns but in the end you could not finish them and forced yourself to eat until you were stuffed to death, you would not go and find the steamed bun seller, right? Chu Yang smiled sadly. The reason why I am here today is because I am weak. I am weak, so everyone can blame me. Although everyone knows that this matter has nothing to do with me. After the Dharma Supreme performs his technique, the truth will be revealed. By then, whether you want to kill me or torture me, you can do whatever you want. But please let my sister go. Chu Yang smiled bleakly. This is the way of the world, nothing more. He looked at the Dharma Supreme with a stern gaze and slowly sat down. He said solemnly, "Dharma Supreme, please do it." Chapter 2013. Part 7, Chapter 333, Brothers Reunited. The powerful voice said, "Boss is also very tired. Youngest, I don't have so many twists and turns like you. Kuan. The three of us are in the upper three heavens. Now that the name of the Hall of 4-3 is known in the pugilistic world, isn't that great?" The previous voice shouted, "That's because you too are great. What's there to be happy about? Is it great to be beaten up by you two every day? Back then, I was also a godly thief in the pugilistic world. Boss should let GMO be beaten up. Or let Luo Kadi be beaten up. Or let second brother beat you up," he shouted. The powerful voice said without any change in tone, "Gu Du Xing can't beat me now. I can beat him up." The previous voice sneered, "I wonder who was the one who was beaten up by second brother Gu every day until he couldn't fight back." He hugged a heavy and stupid saber and kept shouting, Again. I don't believe that I can't hit you once." He laughed, "So you're addicted to being beaten up." The powerful voice snorted, "I realize that you're becoming like GMO now. If you don't get beaten up for a day, you won't feel good." The voice from before jumped in fright. He hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, "Fourth brother, I am sincerely convinced and full of admiration for you. Little brother's worship for fourth brother is like a torrential river, endless and unending. My respect for fourth brother is like a towering mountain." He flattered for a while and sighed, "Isn't it all because of boss? Why hasn't that bastard come up yet?" The powerful voice laughed lightly, "If he comes up, do you dare to call him a bastard to his face?" The voice from before laughed maniacally and said arrogantly, "Why wouldn't I dare? Now that boss definitely can't beat me, I'll take advantage of him for a few years first. I'll beat him up every day. I'll beat his ass." He gritted his teeth and said, "Not only will I beat him up, I'll also teach him a lesson. Humph, I have plenty of methods. No matter what, I can't lose my reputation as a godly thief. Ha. When boss comes up, I'll definitely use my peerless stealing skills and steal all of boss's underwear. When that time comes, don't help him and let him run naked in the upper three heavens. How about you help the three of us vent our anger? At this moment, pa pa pa, the sound of clapping came from the door, and a clear voice said with a fake smile, "Great plan. What a brilliant plan. An unparalleled godly thief is truly an unparalleled godly thief. Ordinary people really can't afford to offend him." The door opened, and a figure stood at the door, looking at the two of them with a faint smile. The two of them were shocked. With their cultivation, how could they not sense someone standing at the door? He turned his head and looked at the door. Chi Kuan. Kuan nodded. One had a lively and serious gaze, while the other had a gaze as sharp as a knife. At a glance, it was as if two large swords were slashing at him. At this moment, his hand was placed on the hilt of the saber beside him. But in the next moment, when they saw who it was, both of them were stunned. Then, the two of them screamed crazily. "Ah! Fuck! Boss! Big brother!" Then, two silhouettes rushed up like sharp swords. A thin and small figure jumped up and hugged Chu Yang's neck. The other was burly like a mountain. He reached out and gave both of them a bear hug, dragging them into the door. The door closed with a bang. Then, wah! Boss is finally here, bang bang bang. Boss, you're really late. Fuck. You two be gentler. My butt still hurts. Chu Yang screamed. Really? Then we'll give you a massage. Fuck. I'm the boss. Chu Yang said angrily, let go. Vent first. Call me boss after you're done. Wah. Awesome. Rui Budong's fists fell like rain, while Dong Wushang sat on Chu Yang's back, suppressing him firmly. Chu Yang lay on the ground in vain, laughing and shouting, fuck. I'm here to denounce you. You two bastards. Quickly stop. Wushang, you're also fooling around. My butt. Fuck, hit me again and I'll get angry. I'm really going to get angry. I'm really going to get angry. Fuck. Chu Yang exerted all his strength and pushed Dong Wushang down. Then the three brothers wrestled. Dong Wushang held his stomach and bent over. Bang. Ribadong sucked in cold air and rubbed his thigh, the muscles on his face trembling in pain. Boss, this thigh-twisting move is a move only girls use. Ouch. Bang bang. Chu Yang held his stomach and was about to bend over when his butt was kicked. He fell flat on his face again. Bang bang bang. The room was turned upside down. Those who didn't know better would think that there was a world war. When the three of them finally stopped, even the big bed in the room was smashed into pieces. The three of them lay on the ground with bruises all over their faces, panting and weak. They looked at each other and couldn't help but burst into laughter. The three of them laughed so hard that tears flowed out. Then, the three of them got up and hugged each other tightly, laughing at the same time. The three of them hugged each other tightly and didn't let go for a long time. The laughter gradually died down, but the three of them still didn't let go. In places where they couldn't see each other, tears flowed down quietly. They secretly wiped them away so that their brothers wouldn't see. But why did they keep crying? The three of them didn't speak. They could clearly feel each other's hearts beating violently. Rui Budong and Dong Wushang recalled their encounters since they came to the upper three heavens. It hadn't been a long time, but they had experienced dozens of life and death situations. The three of them had narrowly escaped death many times, especially Rui Budong, who had actually died as many as 5 times. Meeting at this moment really felt like a lifetime ago. In the vast upper three heavens, suddenly seeing the person closest to them, the person they trusted the most, this feeling was really indescribable. Chu Yang and Dong Wushang just sniffed and quietly controlled their emotions. But Rui Budong couldn't control himself and started to sob. The three of them thought of their brothers who were still in the upper three heavens at the same time. At this moment, there was nothing to say. This moment belonged to them. Men have tears, it is for reunion, for joy. Time passed quietly like this. After the initial excitement, the three of them had gradually calmed down. There was a knock on the door. The voice of the innkeeper outside asked, "Sir, did something happen?" Once the door opened, a pig-headed person with a beaming face and tear stains appeared. His face was bruised and swollen, but he said cheerfully, "It's nothing, it's nothing. Don't worry, it's nothing. Hee, this is for you to compensate for your loss." He casually stuffed a piece of purple crystal over. Bang, the door was closed. Then it opened again. "Let the waiter bring hot water, a teapot and teacups." Bang! The door was closed again. The innkeeper shook his head doubtfully and sighed. Sigh, how pitiful. He's still fine after being beaten up to this extent, crying but still forced to smile, and even forced to tip purple crystals. This poor child, looks like he's met someone he can't afford to offend. Who knows how he's going to be ravaged tonight? Shaking his head, he squeezed the purple crystal in his hand and thought to himself, if I wasn't forced, how would I be willing to tip purple crystals? This piece of purple crystal is enough for him to stay here for half a year, but no matter what, getting the purple crystal is more important than anything else. Even if someone dies in this room tomorrow, I have connections to settle it. The innkeeper left happily. In the room, the three of them had already calmed down. After sighing for a while, Chu Yang suddenly pointed at Rui Badong and burst into laughter. "This little one cried just now, huh?" Rui Budong's face turned red. "I didn't cry. He cried." He pointed at Dong Wuxiang. "Bullshit." Dong Wuxiang glared at him with eyes red from crying and flew into a rage. "You're the one who cried." Rui Badong hung his head dejectedly. "All right, under your coercion I cried. All right? Ha. Look at the two of you, beaten up like bears by me." Looking at the bruises on each other's faces, the three of them couldn't help but laugh. "We're together again. After going through separation, life and death, a long journey, and changing two planes, we're brothers, we're together again." After a long while, Rui Badong sighed softly. "I wonder how they're doing." When he said this, Chu Yang and Dong Wuxiang also fell somewhat silent. Chu Yang said in a low and deep voice, "Our brothers are all good men. Since we can make a name for ourselves, they can definitely do it too. They'll definitely do well. Who knows, it won't be long before they can come up and meet us. But when that time comes, we can still be together like we were for the past 3 days." Rui Badong and Dong Wuxiang's eyes shone brightly. There was a knock on the door. The waiter brought over a tea set and hot water. Rui Badong opened the door to welcome him. Then, Dong Wuxiang went to look for tea. The two of them cooperated seamlessly, and a pot of tea was brewed in an instant. But there was no table. "Let's just drink on the floor." "Sitting on the floor is not bad either," Chu Yang suggested. "That won't do. We brothers have reunited after a long separation. How can we sit on the floor?" Dong Wuxiang's burly body stood up. Twisting his neck, he walked out arrogantly. Then there was a loud shout next door, followed by a few bangs, and then the sound of footsteps. 3 people with bruised and swollen faces brought over a table and chairs with fearful looks on their faces. "Put it down. Set it up properly. Get lost." Dong Wuxiang pointed at the door fiercely. The 3 people covered their heads and scurried away. Chu Yang was stunned. "That works too? The 3 people next door are 3 thieves. We were robbed on the first day we stayed here." Then, Wuxiang went over and gave them a good beating. "Now, whatever we lack, 4th brother will go over and get it as if it's his own house. When he goes over, he'll beat them up without saying a word, and then talk about his purpose after he's done. These 3 people are also used to it. It's uncomfortable not to be beaten up for a day." Rui Badong explained with great emotion. "I see. Wuxiang is really fierce." Ha! Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. "The two of you are advancing really fast. How did you do it? Did you take medicine?" Chu Yang asked. "Boss, aren't you advancing fast?" Dong Wuxiang chuckled. "We're basking in Butong's glory. This guy is actually a bird. Damn it, we've acknowledged a bird as our brother." Chapter 2014. You're the bird. Rui Badong jumped up in anger. Turning to Chu Yang, he said, "Big brother, it's like this, like this, like this." Then he explained everything that had happened in detail, and emphasized, Actually, I was implicated by fourth brother. Oh, Chu Yang was enlightened. He dragged out his tone. So it's really a bird. Rui Badong was dumbfounded. Ha! Dong Wushang held his stomach and laughed. Chu Yang continued, however, Wushang, you're making a fuss over nothing. Actually, every man has a bird as a brother. It's just that we have one more brother. We have two. Haha. Dong Wushang held his stomach and was out of breath. He felt that he had never been so happy in the past year. Rui Badong was so angry that even his neck was red. Facing these two people, he didn't dare to hit or scold them. Thief God Rui felt like he was going to die of frustration. The three of them drank tea and talked about all kinds of things after they parted. They laughed from time to time. After a while, Chu Yang remembered. Wushang, where's your wife? She went out. That girl is really asking for a beating. Dong Wushang's face was domineering. Boss is here and she's not here. When she comes back, see how I'll deal with her. Who are you going to deal with? A cold and gentle voice came from the door. Dressed in black, walked in from outside with a lot of food and a few jars of wine in her hands. She looked at Dong Wushang with a half-smile. I came up just now. Seeing that you brothers were reunited, I deliberately didn't disturb you. I went down to buy some side dishes and 2 jars of wine. I just heard someone say that he's going to deal with me? No, you must have heard wrongly. Dong Wushang quickly stood up and took the food thoughtfully. He laughed and said, Thank you for your hard work. Do you want to sit down and eat together? Chu Yang was stunned. Was this still Dong Wushang? Mo Lei snorted. She wrinkled her nose and said, You 3 brothers eat and drink. Who would be happy if I'm here? Don't be so hypocritical. I'm going to sleep. After bidding farewell to Chu Yang, Mo Lei the black demon, left. Dong Wushang walked her to the door and watched Mo Lei return to her room before he turned back and chuckled. He did not blush at all. He said, She's not bad. She knows how to take care of people. When he saw that his boss had arrived, he hurriedly went to buy some wine. She knew that she couldn't handle things well. I really want to beat her up. Chu Yang and Rui Badong stared at him blankly. Dong Wushang boldly lifted the wine jar and poured a bowl for each of them. He said, Actually, women are just like this. If you don't beat them for 3 days, they'll become unruly. He had to teach her a lesson. Normally, he could be gentle, but at critical moments, he had to be tough. It was a matter of principle. He couldn't give in. As long as you beat him into submission, you can coax him into submission with just a few good words. Chu Yang and Rui Badong stared blankly behind him. Dong Wushang smiled proudly. Just like last time. As if sensing something, he suddenly said, Just like last time, Her's ability to do things is really impressive. She helped me and Badong. I don't know how much she helped us. Boss, you don't know, ever since we came here, if it weren't for Lei, Badong and I might still be wandering somewhere right now. Right, Badong? Rui Butong's face twitched. He nodded like a fool. Yes. What do you think, boss? Dong Wushang asked Chu Yang with interest. Actually, we men have to be more magnanimous towards women. We have to tolerate everything. Only then can we get by. Not every woman is as good-tempered as Lei. Chu Yang stared blankly at Dong Wushang's rough face as if he was looking at an alien. Dong Wushang chuckled. When he turned around, he immediately pretended to be shocked. Lei, why are you back? Mo Lei? Smiled and thoughtfully helped him tidy up his clothes. She smiled and said, I wanted to remind you that if these 2 jars of wine aren't enough, I still have jars at the waiter downstairs. Dong Wushang held Mo Lei's hand and said emotionally, Lei, you're really too kind. Waiter blushed and said, Let go what? Okay, I'm going back. She turned around and left. Dong Wushang looked at the door for a while and carefully closed the door. He chuckled and wiped his forehead. Boss, when dealing with women, you have to be more careful. Chu Yang stared at him for a while and finally sighed and laughed. I've been away for 3 days. I have to look at you in a different light. Wushang, I really should look at you in a different light. Dong Wushang smiled foolishly and scratched his head. He leaned close to Chu Yang's ear and whispered, "Very fierce, I can't even get on the bed if I'm not careful." Chu Yang was listening to him with his head tilted and instantly spat out the wine. A mouthful of wine and a half-chewed pig's ear sprayed all over Rui Butong's face, who was trying to eavesdrop with a face full of gossip. Rui Butong was extremely depressed at once. He wiped his face in a flurry and sighed repeatedly. "Boss, why did you suddenly explode?" "Because I suddenly remembered that someone wanted me to run naked in the upper three heavens," Chu Yang said lightly. Rui Butong immediately bowed and said, "Boss, please spare me, this mouth of mine is despicable. I've said everything that should be said and shouldn't be said." As he spoke, he raised his hand and lightly slapped himself twice. That strength couldn't even kill a mosquito. Chu Yang snorted and warned, "I'm happy this time, so I'll remember this first. If anything happens in the future, as long as I remember it, I'll punish you for multiple crimes." He said heavily, "If there's anything that makes me unhappy in the future, I'll definitely make your wish of running naked in the upper three heavens come true." Rui Butong's face was bitter and he agreed repeatedly. He thought to himself, "I'm done for. With this despicable mouth of mine, I don't know how many times I'll be punished." At this moment, he suddenly missed GMO endlessly. How great would it be if that guy was here? He was a masochist who was born to attract hatred and attention. Now that he's not here, everyone's target has shifted to me. The three of them drank to their heart's content, infusing all the sorrow of parting, the surprise of reuniting after a long time, and the longing for their brothers into the wine. The three of them didn't use their cultivation to suppress the alcohol and let themselves get drunk. The 2 jars of wine were practically poured into their stomachs. Rui Butong went down and brought up the other jar. The three of them made a big fuss, each occupying a jar and drinking in large mouthfuls. After a long time, Dong Wuxiang's eyes were drowsy. He laughed heartily and said, "I seem to have returned to the upper three heavens. How satisfying! Which hero in the world dares to fight with me?" Rui Butong's eyes were slanted. He leaned on the table. He looked up weakly and said drunkenly, "This bastard is drunk?" Before he could finish, there was a slurping sound. He crawled under the table weakly. Chu Yang loved to smile when he was drunk. He smiled like a retard and chuckled as he drank. Then he laughed and drank at the same time. When the last mouthful of wine entered his stomach, he finally collapsed. With a thud, Dong Wuxiang's burly body also collapsed. Rui Butong was at the lowest level, Chu Yang was lying on top of him, and Dong Wuxiang was firmly pressed against Chu Yang's lower abdomen. The position of the three of them was as awkward as it could be, and as uncomfortable as it could be, but the three of them fell asleep just like that with a look of satisfaction on their faces. Snoring sounds could be heard everywhere. A black shadow flashed. Immortal quietly came in to take a look. She couldn't help but sigh. Men were really hard to understand. The friendship between men was even harder for women to guess. At such a time when danger was lurking everywhere, these three actually got so drunk just for a simple reunion, but she didn't know that although danger was lurking everywhere at this moment, for the three of them who were in a deep sleep, it was the most comfortable, the most reassuring and the safest time. Because their brothers were right beside them. From now on, everyone had someone to rely on. He no longer had to struggle alone like he did in the past. As long as they had this kind of feeling, even if danger was lurking everywhere, the three of them could get drunk without any scruples. Immortal didn't touch them either. Just like that, she moved a chair and sat at the door, keeping her guard up. She silently guarded for the whole night. The next day, dawn. A scream sounded from the room. Rui Butong screamed like a pig being slaughtered. "What's so heavy? Fuck, it's crushing me." He exerted force and the 2 people on top of him flew out. Immediately, Chu Yang and Dong Wuxiang also woke up. They only felt sore all over and scratched their heads in puzzlement. They had never heard that sleeping could be so tiring. After leaving the invitation to the auction to the 3 of them, Chu Yang washed his face and hurried away. It was a little abrupt for them to gather together now. He might as well directly appear in the upper 3 heavens during the auction. In that way, with Zi Shecheng's deterrence, the intangible value of his brothers would also rise. Besides, he still had to look for Wan Renjie, Wei Wen, and the others now. After Chu Yang left, Dong Wushang and Rui Badong finally woke up. Holding the invitation in their hands, they suddenly saw the two of them jumping up in ecstasy. Boss really came up? Pa. The two of them jumped up and down excitedly, hugging each other just like that, laughing and jumping on the street in front of the inn's entrance. One was burly and the other was thin and small. Hugging each other and jumping up and down excitedly, it was very easy for people to form an indecent association. After seeing this, many passers-by's eyes suddenly popped out. Then, they couldn't help but rub their eyes and spit a mouthful of saliva. With a look of disdain, they turned and left. Public morals were degenerating day by day, and people's hearts were no longer what they used to be. In the past, men and women had to be secretive and secretive. But now, even men had to be so open about it. Her stood in the inn and looked at these two crazy brothers. She couldn't help but cover her eyes speechlessly. It was really unbearable to watch. Chu Yang circled around and found Wan Renjie and the other two brothers according to the information he received. Then he found Wei Wen, who was alone in an inn. Finally, when he was on his way back, he sent the invitation to Nangong Shifeng. But he realized that the invitation was actually not enough. He had to make another trip to the Medicine Valley's encampment and ask the fifth elder for a few more before it was barely enough. After going through so many twists and turns, it was only at this time that Chu Yang's own strength was going to be displayed in the upper three heavens for the first time. I'm so tired. I'll open a single chapter and go eat. To be continued. Chapter 2015. The people from the big clans all looked sullen. If this is called taking advantage, then everyone should take advantage of me. This is just asking for trouble. Zi Xiecheng didn't stand on ceremony at all. When someone gave her purple crystals, she instructed Chu Yang to keep them. Dong Wushang, Wan Renjie and the rest were all dumbfounded. I'm going to faint. This big sister Zi is actually such a powerful person. One person, one sentence, and she can suppress the heavens. The auction that followed became lively. If the big clans wanted to get a stock of medicine, they had to bid. And the bidding was crazy. Absolutely no one would bid for it. If it didn't, this powerful person would ask again, "Why did your clan let this thing go unsold? I think it's very valuable. Do you think it's not?" Then each clan would have to pay double the price. That would be going for wool and coming home shorn. Under such circumstances, everyone from the big clans complained incessantly. How many purple crystals could they afford to spend like this? They couldn't help but look at the 4 private rooms that they couldn't afford to offend. They prayed in their hearts, "Hurry up and bid, bid. We can't hold on much longer." Finally, when it was time for the black-blooded red fruit, Bu Luqing bid 100,000 purple crystals. This price wasn't high indeed. The starting price for the black-blooded red fruit was already 100,000. This guy didn't even add a single word. The big clans heaved a sigh of relief. My goodness, in this short period of time, each clan had bid for more than 30 stalks of medicine. The purple crystals they brought with them were almost used up. Bu Luqing bid. Just nice, let this guy hold on for a while. Yes, it's not that we don't want to support him, but we can't afford to offend this guy. Bu Luqing opened his mouth, but there was no sound. Everyone was gloating. If Bu Luqing and this powerful person got into a conflict, it would definitely be a good show. But the strange thing was that the powerful woman didn't make a sound. Thus, Bu Luqing bid for a black-blooded red fruit with a starting price of 100,000 purple crystals. LNG. Next, a dazzling sound vine. Bu Luqing bid again, 100,000. Still, no one competed. The zombie-faced auctioneer was very eloquent. He counted down the hammer with a bang. It went to Bu Luqing again. It was still bought with a starting price. Everyone was puzzled by these words. What's wrong? Could it be that the woman was also afraid of Bu Luqing? Chu Yang was grinning from ear to ear in the private room. He still had some of these items in stock. Even if Bu Luqing didn't buy them, he would still find a way to send them to Jianghu. Now that Bu Luqing was willing to spend money, it couldn't be better. Who knew how many good things this old man had plundered all these years? It was only right that he spit out a little. Seeing the purple crystals flowing into his pocket like a river, Chu Yang heaved a huge sigh of relief. After this auction, even if Calamity Sword had to devour a portion of the purple crystals, the brothers would need to cultivate for at least 20 years. They wouldn't have to worry about that at all. Everything was settled in one go. The purple crystal was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Bu Luqing bid for 3 items in a row. It seemed like he had run out of money, so he didn't make another bid. Immediately after, the Feng and Yu couple won 10 spirit herbs in one go. However, compared to Bu Luqing, the Moon Breeze couple's offer was much more reasonable. Basically, he bought it at market price. Compared to someone as shameless as Bu Luqing, he seemed to have more class. Moreover, Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro were very excited. This mysterious senior had actually appeared here. Moreover, all these medicines were hers. After the auction ended, they must pay her a visit. Then, the Dharma Supreme also won 20 spirit herbs. The Dharma Supreme's price was more average. He didn't offend Zi Xiecheng and didn't spend too much money. He had a perfect grasp of the situation. In the following auction of the Black Blood Divine Medicine, the various clans no longer used purple crystals. Instead, they used precious herbs, resources and minerals to exchange for them. Batch after batch was exchanged. Chu Yang felt an itch in his heart. He couldn't wait to dig out another 700 to 800 spirit herbs from his calamity space to auction. It felt so good to make a fortune. It was equivalent to turning from a nameless beggar into the richest man in the world. That kind of feeling. Purple crystals, come all over the place. Precious minerals, come all over the place. Precious herbs, come all over the place. Even the sword spirit didn't go into seclusion. With a face full of greed, he looked at the precious materials outside being auctioned, exchanged and discounted before entering the back hall. That look in his eyes was as if he couldn't wait to swallow all those things into his stomach. Great nourishment. The elders and supreme martial artists of the various clans all had ashen faces. Although the elixirs were very valuable and had great effects. But they weren't that valuable. The various elders clearly felt that this wasn't an auction but a slaughterhouse. They were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. In front of them, a big shiny knife was being sharpened and ready to slaughter them at will. Wherever they saw fat, the knife would cut them. Furthermore, this kind of slaughter was done by them voluntarily, allowing others to pick and choose what was fat and what was thin. They were even afraid that others would be unhappy when they were being slaughtered. It went without saying how aggrieved this feeling was. In all these herbs, other than those left behind by the Medicine Valley, those that the 4 big clans couldn't afford to offend, and those low-grade goods that some small clans had bought at the beginning, the rest were all divided up by the 8 big clans. Furthermore, basically the price was double. Towards the end, when it came to the precious minerals and all kinds of precious materials, there were even less of them. It was as if the woman in the 3rd room was sick. Whenever she encountered a price that she didn't like or was dissatisfied with, she would cough. It was as if she had tuberculosis. But with just one cough, she could double the price that was about to be finalized. This kind of wealth was simply too awesome. Finally, the zombie-faced man held out a purple crystal box and said, "Next, the auction items are the herbs that our Medicine Valley and this medicine banquet have specially selected for the auction. Everyone, please pay attention. The first item is a poisonous herb called blood orchid." As he spoke, he recited the characteristics of the blood orchid and finally announced the starting price, 30,000 purple crystals. Before he finished speaking, Chu Yang, who was originally sitting in the room with his legs crossed, suddenly coughed very pretentiously and said lightly, "I offer 30,001 purple crystal." Once this sentence came out, everyone was instantly speechless. Then, a stifling feeling rose up. Either you don't add, or you add a little more. The starting price was 30,000 and you only added 1 purple crystal. What was this called? Immediately, someone wanted to make a ruckus. But after waiting for a while, the people below were surprised to find that after this guy made the bid, the private rooms of the big clans were silent. There was no fighting, no snatching, no scolding, and no reprimanding. It was as if this matter was extremely normal. It was too strange. What was going on? Could it be that this young man was more powerful than the big clans? They had never heard of such an awesome person in the upper three heavens. Although they couldn't figure it out, if the big clans didn't dare to say anything, the others naturally didn't dare to object. In the second room, Jianghu suddenly stood up. "This is Brother Chu Yang's voice." She was about to rush out. Bu Luqing secretly complained in his heart. This little one was really everywhere. How did she manage to get here? He grabbed Jianghu and said, "Not necessarily, there are too many people with similar voices in the world." "Little Wu, confirm it first. There are so many people here, don't make a fool of yourself." Jianghu said firmly, "I won't hear wrongly." Brother Chu Yang's voice, "I will never hear wrongly." Bu Luqing felt powerless. Jianghu rushed out of the private room and stood outside, looking around. Her eyes were anxious and her expression was urgent. A red shadow was pacing back and forth on the railing, watching anxiously. Waiting for Chu Yang to speak again, unknowingly, tears had already filled her eyes. She only felt that her heart was beating extremely violently, as if it could jump out of her throat at any time. A sorrowful feeling of longing accumulated in her heart, surging, waiting to pour out. Many people below were watching. They didn't know what this little girl in red was looking for, what was longing for. The auctioneer said loudly, 30,000 purple crystals for another piece of purple crystal. Is there a higher bid? Is there a higher bid? Is there a higher bid? 1, 2, 3 sold. Bang. The gavel fell. The big clans were all a little uncomfortable. In their eyes, Chu Yang's actions were definitely deliberately instructed by that powerful existence to disgust them. But they didn't dare to make a sound. Chu Yang got the blood orchid at the base price. But his heart suddenly became a little agitated, a little restless. For a moment, he was actually a little anxious, as if someone was calling out to him. Chu Yang frowned and suddenly became upset. He couldn't control the kind of emotions that wanted to vent. He muttered, "What's going on? Why is my heart so messed up? Is little Wu here? Is little Wu here?" The next item to be auctioned is the most poisonous in the world, the color lotus. The base price is 35,000 purple crystals. Once the auctioneer said this, Chu Yang stood up immediately. He was very agitated. Zi Xiecheng was also very excited. Chu Lu's eyes lit up and her face turned red. The last elixir needed for Chu Lu's illness actually appeared at this auction without any warning. Chu Yang didn't expect this at all. He bid for the blood orchid as a backup plan. If he couldn't get the color lotus, he would replace it with the blood orchid. Although it was a little lacking, it could still be used. It was just that it couldn't achieve the best results. It had been almost a year since he brought Chu Lu out. Chu Lu's illness didn't have much time left. So Chu Yang had to prepare a spare tire in advance. At this moment, when the perverted lotus appeared, Chu Yang, who was already somewhat upset, immediately couldn't hold himself back. He stood up and strode out, saying loudly, "Perverted lotus, I offer 40,000 purple crystals." Jianghu, who was searching hard, let out a moan. She looked at the tall and straight figure that appeared in the distance in disbelief. Her heart instantly felt sour and sweet, and tears flowed out of her eyes. She desperately wiped the tears that were gushing out of her eyes and murmured, "Brother Chu Yang." Her voice was so soft and vague that even she couldn't hear it clearly. But this voice made the little girl feel that she wasn't dreaming. Jianghu stood up suddenly and used all her strength to shout loudly, "Brother Chu Yang." Tears flowed freely from her eyes and face, but this shout was filled with joy. It was filled with the surprise of a reunion after a long separation and a deep longing. Fourth update. 5,300 additional updates. Rest for a while, eat, then continue to write. Stay up all night to write the fourth update. Chapter 2016. Chu Yang frowned, thinking about the frustration and longing in his heart. Suddenly, Jianghu's figure surged into his mind. Let the fun begin. After calling out 40,000 purple crystals, he actually became a little dazed. It was as if a red figure was singing and dancing in front of him, floating up and down. For a moment, a strong sense of bitterness and longing welled up in his heart. In a daze, he suddenly heard someone call out, "Brother Chu Yang." Chu Yang raised his head abruptly and saw a petite figure in red drawing a beautiful neon light in the air, flying towards him. Behind her, there were red afterimages, as if she was flying and dancing in the air. Chu Yang was stunned. In that instant, he actually couldn't tell if this was reality or a dream. He couldn't help but murmur, "Xiaowu? Qingwu?" The next moment, a petite figure suddenly crashed into his arms. Chu Yang felt softness in his arms and smelled a fragrance. He finally hugged her and said in surprise, "Xiaowu? It's really you?" Emo Qingwu's face was already covered in tears. Choking with sobs, she buried her little head in his arms and nodded vigorously, bumping into Chu Yang's chest. The longing and suppression she had for a long time were completely released at this moment when she saw Chu Yang. Her two hands wrapped tightly around Chu Yang's body. Emo Qingwu felt that she was so happy at this moment. She greedily breathed in Chu Yang's scent, crying and laughing at the same time. At this moment, she didn't care about other people's gazes at all. After a long time, when this emotion was released, the little loli slid down from Chu Yang's arms. She pouted a little embarrassedly and rubbed her eyes. Then her face turned red. She was shy and smiling as she twisted her waist and stomped her feet. She wanted to say something, but the moment the words were about to leave her mouth, she forgot them, so she stomped her feet in frustration, bit her lips and blinked her eyes. Suddenly, she came to her senses and turned around, covering her face with her hands. Chu Yang's heart finally fell to the ground and he chuckled. He held the little girl's shoulders. He said, "So it's really Xiaowu. Let Brother Chu Yang see, you've grown up, right?" Emo Qingwu turned her body, but she still covered her face. "Don't let him see." She mumbled, wanting to cry and laugh at the same time. She was also a little embarrassed, as well as the hazy and immature emotions of a young girl. At this moment, after the initial excitement, Emo Qingwu found that she had become even more nervous. His heart was beating even faster. Chu Yang laughed heartily. He felt extremely comfortable, joyful, and happy. They hadn't seen each other for more than a year. The little girl had really changed a lot. She had grown taller, and her figure as a young girl was beginning to show. Emo Qingwu had pounced on him like this on the third day. Chu Yang still felt a little uncomfortable, but now he only felt a kind of soft happiness. The little girl was still a little skinny, but her shoulders were slim, her waist was slender, and her butt was full. However, she had already begun to take shape, and her chest was like a small lotus that had just revealed its sharp horns. Her cheeks bulged like flower buds. Her hair was like clouds, and she was tall and slender. Chu Yang grinned and chuckled. He gently removed Emo Qingwu's hand from her face and said, "Let me see, let me see." Emo Qingwu stubbornly refused to let go and said, "I'll let you see if you're not allowed to laugh." Chu Yang solemnly promised, "I won't laugh." Emo Qingwu quietly moved away a little and met Chu Yang's beaming face. She couldn't help but pout and say, "Still say you're not laughing." She actually covered her face again. Chu Yang laughed heartily. Then, he pulled Emo Qingwu's hand and led her into his room. After Chu Yang called out the price, the whole place was silent. Naturally, the lotus fell into Chu Yang's hands. Now, the medicine for his sister Chu Le's treatment was all ready. Emo Qingwu also happened to be back today, and Chu Yang temporarily didn't have any suspicions about the Tribulation Sword Master. Bu Luqing had already chased after them anxiously. Hey, young Chu, don't kidnap my disciple." Chu Yang turned back and beamed. "Senior Bu, you're here too. Ha, please come in and have a seat." Bu Luqing couldn't wait to guard against him. Why would he come in? He went to pull Emo Qingwu and said, "It's too dangerous to be with you. My disciple still has to cultivate. She's in the golden stage of cultivation. How can we waste time?" Emo Qingwu had finally seen Chu Yang with great difficulty. But Her heart still hadn't recovered from the bottleneck. She only felt that her mind was still in a trance. In fact, she felt as if she was dreaming. But her heart was filled with boundless excitement and joy. How could she be willing to go back with Bu Lu Qing at this time? She shrank back and pouted unhappily. Master, I've already seen Brother Chu Yang. Why do I still need to cultivate? I want to accompany Brother Chu Yang and have a chat. Bu Lu Qing glared at her and said, How can a chat take so long? Little Wu, you don't understand. You're a girl. You have to be careful. There are many people in this world who have the heart of a beast. You can't tell from the surface. Mo Qingwu pouted and said, My brother Chu Yang isn't such a person. Master, you've been trying to stop me from looking for Brother Chu Yang. Is it because you're afraid that he has the heart of a beast? Master, you're so narrow-minded. Bu Lu Qing sighed and looked at Chu Yang with murderous eyes. Chu Yang was a little confused. The last time he saw Bu Lu Qing in the three heavens, he didn't seem to be so rude. Why does it seem like he's full of wariness towards me this time? He's like an old hen trying to stop her chicks from getting close to a fox. Shermu suddenly understood why Bu Lu Qing would think this way. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that what the Dharma Supreme said that night had a big impact on Bu Lu Qing. This guy believed that all tribulation sword masters were heartless people and was afraid that his disciple would be taken advantage of. Chu Yang smiled and said, Elder Bu, what are you saying? We've met again after such a long time. Shouldn't we have a good gathering? Besides, there are many acquaintances inside. What he meant was, I'm not alone with your disciple. I'm always right under your nose. What are you afraid of? Bu Lu Qing frowned and said, Even if there are many acquaintances. At this moment, a terrifying aura was suddenly emitted from the box. A faint voice said, Is that the number one expert of the heavens, supreme martial artist Bu? Bu Liuqing's expression became serious and he said, I don't deserve to be the number one expert of the heavens. May I know who you are? Zi Xieching said lightly, Indeed, I don't deserve to be number one. However, come in and have a chat. Bu Liuqing's anger rose and he said lightly, If that's the case, I'd like to have a taste of it. As he said, he walked in with big steps. Chu Yang smiled. Zi Xieching was indeed the best at dealing with people like Bu Lu Qing. Just the number one expert of the heavens was enough to provoke his temper. But Chu Yang also knew. The same method also depended on who was using it. If he said it himself, Bu Lu Qing would probably not even care. He would just laugh it off. But Zi Xieching was qualified to comment on this number one expert of the heavens. Therefore, the words that came out of her mouth carried a lot of weight. Mo Qingwu didn't even consider this point. She didn't even consider that her teacher was already secretly competing with Zi Xieching inside. Her mind was filled with Chu Yang now. She leaned on Chu Yang and held his arm in her embrace. The little girl felt extremely happy. It was as if she had someone to rely on for her entire life. The two of them spoke softly. Mo Qingwu looked up from time to time. She looked at Chu Yang. There were still tear stains at the corner of his eyes, but his mouth was already blooming with a happy and gentle smile. She walked slowly into the private room. This situation made Chu Yang's heart suddenly ache. Especially the gentleness at the corner of Mo Qingwu's mouth that carried a wholehearted reliance. It made him combine the Mo Qingwu in front of him with the Mo Qingwu in his previous life. This was a gentleness that almost made him lose himself. The Qingwu in his previous life. She was so gentle. She was so obedient. No matter what, she would always put him first, including her own life. She had no regrets. As long as she could be with him, no matter how short the time was. She would also wholeheartedly enjoy the time they spent together. Even if it was just a blink of an eye. Cherish. The husband is the rock, the concubine is the vine. Everything is in the husband's body. Qingwu. Chu Yang moaned softly in pain. Unknowingly, he held Mo Qingwu's little hand tightly, as if he was afraid that she would turn into a puff of smoke and dissipate like in his previous life. Brother Chu Yang? Mo Qingwu looked up. Her bright eyes looked at Chu Yang. There was gentleness, trust, worry, and a kind of doting in her gaze. I won't let you cry again. Chu Yang forced a smile. He held her little hand and said as if he was making an oath, "Jianghu, you must be happy. I will let you be so happy for all your lives." Jianghu looked at him in a daze. Suddenly, her eyes turned red. She sobbed and said, "But Brother Chu Yang, when you say this, I feel so happy that I want to cry." The two had already walked to the door. It was only a few steps, but the two actually walked for half a cup of tea's time before they reached the door. Chu Yang was about to lift the curtain when Jianghu pressed his hand. Looking into Chu Yang's eyes, Jianghu said softly, "Brother Chu Yang, you used to call me Xiaowu. But today, when you call my name, you call me Jianghu." Chu Yang was startled. He said, "What's the difference? Xiaowu has grown up. Of course, I should call you Jianghu? You keep calling me Xiaowu. It feels like Xiaowu hasn't grown up yet." Jianghu tilted her head and thought for a while. She nodded in agreement and said, "That's true." Chu Yang couldn't help but smile when he saw that she was so childish yet pretended to be mature in her tone. Jianghu tilted her head and murmured, "My name is Jianghu. But since I was young, very few people called me Jianghu. They all called me Xiao. But today, Brother Chu Yang, you called me Jianghu. Why do I feel that it's so familiar? This feeling is very strange." Chu Yang was shocked. Familiar? Strange? I started writing this chapter at 4 in the afternoon. Halfway through, I unintentionally clicked on a song called "Love You Now and Forever." When I heard the line, "Not being by your side for so many years, it's been hard on you, my sweetheart," I suddenly fell into a daze and listened to it over and over again for dozens of times. There will be more updates tonight. This is 5,500 Canadian dollars. At present, I still owe 3 chapters. Begging for monthly votes. To be continued. Chapter 2017. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jianghu tilted her head and said mischievously, "It's just very familiar, as if you've been calling me that for many years." Pa. And L. and G. Web. Jianghu was smiling, but Chu Yang's heart became heavy. He wondered if he was being too sensitive. Thinking too much? A soft sound came from the private room. Chu Yang and Jianghu walked in and saw Dong Wuxiang and the rest standing at one side. Zi Xiecheng was sitting in the middle, and opposite her, Bu Luqing was standing like a sword. The two of them seemed to have secretly exchanged blows. Zi Xiecheng was calm and collected, while Bu Luqing revealed some sort intent. "You're indeed an expert." Bu Luqing sighed. Zi Xiecheng smiled lightly. "Number 1 in the heavens. You're indeed worthy of your reputation. Brother Bu may not be the true number 1, but he can definitely be ranked in the top 3. It's not an exaggeration." Bu Luqing smiled coldly and said, "Top 3? Top 3? So, you mean you're number 1? Zi Xiecheng shook her head lightly. "Brother Bu, you shouldn't compare yourself with me." She used her telepathy to send a sentence over. "Because I'm not from this world." Bu Luqing was shocked, and then a gentle smile appeared on his face. "I see." After Bu Luqing entered, he had secretly fought with Zi Xiecheng and suffered a loss. He couldn't help but feel a huge blow to his heart. He had always prided himself on being at the peak of the heavens, especially when the Dharma Supreme, who was widely acknowledged as the number 1 in the world, suffered a loss at his hands. Bu Luqing was full of confidence. Who would have thought that he would be at a complete disadvantage the moment he entered, with almost no power to fight back? The disappointment in his heart at this moment was really indescribable. But now that he heard Zi Xiecheng say that she wasn't from this world, his mentality was immediately adjusted. How could he be a match for someone who had already surpassed this plane? "Brother Bu, are you worried about the Tribulation Sword Master?" Zi Xiecheng continued to transmit her telepathy. Bu Luqing was shocked. Chu Yang is definitely not such a person. Zi Xiecheng sent a telepathic message to him. "I think you should believe my words." Bu Luqing's expression changed. He forced a smile and said, "I felt that your excellency was by his side helping him. So, I was certain that he wasn't a bad person. According to what I know, with your cultivation level, you can already pry into the heart, right?" Zi Xiecheng nodded slowly. Therefore, from the moment I came to this room, I have already put my heart at ease. Bu Luqing smiled and said, therefore, this is just a simple battle. There are no other intentions. Bu Luqing nodded. Senior, please enlighten me. This heavens beyond. Bu Luqing continued to ask. I'll talk to you when you come to pick up your disciple. Zi Xiecheng's eyes flashed. She sized him up and said, actually, you're only half a step away from entering the Grandmaster's boundary. But, you'll have to deal with your worries first. Otherwise, after entering the Grandmaster's beyond heaven, it would accumulate over the years and become an inner demon. The heart devil of outer heaven cannot be resisted. Bu Luqing's heart shook as he replied, yes. He thought to himself, so she actually knows my wishes. Without saying anything more, he nodded and took 2 steps back. In the room, the vague and terrifying aura of 10,000 swords suddenly disappeared just like that. Bu Luqing turned his head and said, Xiao Wu, stay here for a few days first. After I'm done with my business, I'll come and pick you up when I return. How about that? Mo Qingwu cheered. Teacher is a great person. Bu Luqing smiled dotingly and nodded at Chu Yang. His gaze was a little complicated as he shouted, Little one, if you dare to bully my disciple, I'll castrate you alive. Chu Yang was about to reply when he saw that Bu Luqing had already turned into a ray of light and disappeared from the room. This person is not bad. Zi Xiecheng said to Chu Yang. Chu Yang pondered and said, regarding this, I have a question. I'll discuss it with you later. He shook his head and said, I'm not mature yet. Zi Xiecheng knew that since Chu Yang said so, it must be a very serious question. She nodded and said, the things you're thinking about are always very complicated. I can't guarantee that I'll resolve them for you, but I'll try my best to clear your doubts. Chu Yang said, okay. At this moment, Dong Wushang's eyes lit up and he exclaimed, this is Xiao Wu. Isn't this Xiao Wu? Rui Badong also recognized her. At once, the two of them were overjoyed and were about to pounce on her. Mo Qingwu took a step back and said, Brother Wushang, Brother Ba, you can't hug me. Dong Wushang said jokingly, why, only your brother Chu Yang can hug you and we can't? Mo Qingwu snorted and said, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Dong Wushang and Rui Badong laughed so hard that they swayed back and forth. At this moment, Chu Lu walked out from Zi Xiecheng's side and took Chu Yang's hand. With a hint of hostility, she asked, Big brother, who is this? Mo Qingwu immediately felt a sense of hostility. She had innate spirit meridians and was especially sensitive to this kind of aura. She couldn't help but hug Chu Yang's other arm and asked, Brother Chu Yang, who is she? There was actually a hint of jealousy and hostility in her voice. The two little girls, one hugging the left arm and the other hugging the right arm, looked at each other with hostility across Chu Yang. Chu Lu felt that her status was being attacked. Mo Qingwu felt that her status as the first wife was being threatened. The jealousy revealed by the two little girls at this moment was actually very strong. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the two little girls to start fighting the moment they met. He hurriedly explained, okay, stop fooling around. Let me introduce you. Before he finished, Chu Lu already interrupted, I call him Big Brother. Who do you think I am to him? Mo Qingwu pouted and said, Humph, I even call him Brother Chu Yang. Who do you think I am? The two little girls didn't give way to each other. They glared at each other as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Chu Yang looked at Zi Xiecheng for help, but Zi Xiecheng turned her head to one side intentionally. He looked at Dong Wushang and saw that the three of them were watching a show. When they saw Chu Yang looking over, the three of them turned their heads toward the ceiling at the same time. Wan Renjie and the others held back their laughter and watched the show. Wei Wen sat at one side lifelessly, neither speaking nor moving. Nangong Shifeng and his brothers laughed dryly and actually said, I need to pee. The brothers all needed to pee and left quickly. Chu Yang was sweating profusely. What kind of people are they? Can't they see that I'm in pain now? Just as he was about to explain Chu Lu's identity, Chu Lu pinched his waist. He didn't dare to use his internal energy for fear of hurting her hand. He grimaced in pain. Why are you pinching my brother Chu Yang? Mo Qingwu was unhappy. Why don't you try pinching yourself? Don't you know pain? Chu Le said, I like to pinch him. Why is your heart aching? Why should your heart ache? Mo Qingwu was dumbfounded. Chu Le narrowed her eyes and said, You like him? You're so young and you actually like someone? Mo Qingwu's face instantly turned red. Although her temper was soft with a hint of toughness, her nature was pure and honest, and even a little simple and adorable. She was thin-skinned to begin with, and when she heard Chu Le's words, she couldn't handle it. But Chu Le was very scheming. This girl had been bedridden all these years. Although she didn't grow up much, she was very cunning. Once she saw Mo Qingwu's expression, she immediately guessed it. When she saw Chu Yang's doting expression, she immediately knew that things were not good. Chu Le naturally had a sister-in-law candidate in mind, and that was of course the peerless beauty Zi Xiecheng. At this moment, seeing a little girl about her age actually coveting the sister-in-law position, she immediately felt a little uncomfortable. She rolled her eyes and said, But he already has me. Even if you marry him, you can only be a concubine. Mo Qingwu let out an ah and said in disbelief, You? How is this possible? Chu Le was furious. She said, Why is it impossible? Mo Qingwu looked at Chu Le, who was half a head shorter than her, with a face full of suspicion. She said, I'm afraid brother Chu Yang won't like someone like you. Chu Le exploded. She made threatening gestures and said, What's wrong with me being like this? Mo Qingwu shook her head and said earnestly, Little girl, you're still young. Don't make such a joke. Even if big brother Chu Yang wants to marry, he can only marry a beautiful girl like me. Someone like you, who's covered with bean sprouts that haven't even grown yet, would hurt my hand when I touch you. Big brother Chu Yang won't like you. If you're really persistent, come back a few years later when you've grown up. When the time comes, beg me and I can make the decision to take you in as a concubine for brother Chu Yang. When this sentence came out, Chu Yang was really dumbfounded. Not only him, even Dong Wushang, Zi Xiecheng and the others also looked at Mo Qingwu in disbelief. They didn't expect this little girl to actually say such a thing. As for hurts to the touch, that was a joke Chu Yang made with Mo Qingwu back then. They didn't expect this girl to actually remember it until now. Dong Wushang and the others naturally knew that Mo Qingwu had always been ambitious towards Chu Yang. Back then, on the way to the far northern wastelands, Mo Qingwu had once said, Can I be your sister-in-law? At that time, everyone only thought that the little girl was joking. But now the little girl was 13. She was still infatuated with him. The words above were actually extremely powerful, even if they were to be used as a counterattack. It made Chu Le teary-eyed and speechless. Mo Qingwu's heart softened a little. She comforted her. When you grow up, you'll still have a chance. Chu Le said angrily, Who needs your comfort? Mo Qingwu hugged Chu Yang's arm proudly and said, So, you still have to learn from me in everything. Chu Le snorted. Chu Yang hurriedly explained with a bitter smile, Qingwu, this is Chu Le, my second uncle's daughter, my younger sister. Mo Qingwu cried out in surprise, Your younger sister? She immediately regretted it. Damn, I was wondering why she was so fierce. So it's little aunt. If little aunt objected, things would be really bad. Mo Qingwu was still young, but she was deeply in love with Chu Yang. Moreover, there seemed to be an inexplicable feeling that was guiding her. This is the one for her in this life. Mo Qingwu was young, but she was deeply in love with Chu Yang. Moreover, there seemed to be an inexplicable feeling guiding her. This is the one for her in this life. And Chu Yang was also meticulous towards her, even at the expense of his own safety. Over time, Mo Qingwu had already positioned herself in the position of Chu Yang's wife, and considered herself as such. Chu Le said angrily, Who's your little aunt? As she spoke, she ran to Zi Xiecheng's side and shook her. Big sister-in-law, look. This little girl actually wants to snatch your position. 700 additional chapters. I can't write anymore today. My brain is a mess and I have a splitting headache. I need 3 more chapters. After double the monthly votes, I'll update double the chapters. Thank you, everyone. And I beg for monthly votes. Chapter 2018. Chu Yang stood there in a daze for a while, his expression changing. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and hit his right hand hard with his left hand. Then, he hit his left hand hard with his right hand and scolded, "At the crucial moment, all of you became timid." I clearly felt that there was no problem with hugging just now. He let out a long sigh. In the tribulation space, the sword spirit was inspecting the elixirs that suddenly came in with shining eyes. He was so happy that he danced. We're really rich now. So many heavenly treasures. Many of them I've never seen before, but their effects are as powerful as before. We're rich. The sword spirit was extremely excited. Rich? Chu Yang's consciousness sank into the tribulation space. With a straight face, he said coldly, "You only know how to be rich." The sword spirit laughed and didn't mind. He said, "The quality of this batch of elixirs is very high. In total, there were 3,700 stocks. And the most valuable part should be from the heavens." He blinked mysteriously. "That mysterious plane." Chu Yang said lightly, "Oh? So many?" Sensing that Chu Yang wasn't in a good mood, the sword spirit was somewhat puzzled. Why did he still have such a straight face when he had such a big harvest just now? What was going on? How are the best quality elixirs compared to the great elixirs? Chu Yang asked. They can't be compared. The sword spirit said, although the great elixirs may not be able to completely surpass these heavenly treasures in terms of medicinal efficacy, they contain the power of the heavens, so they are the main component of heavy elixirs. These elixirs, especially those from the heavens, have already surpassed the great elixirs in terms of medicinal efficacy, but they don't have the power of the heavens, so they can't be compared. Oh. Chu Yang was silent for a while. Then he said, if they are heavy elixirs, will they be effective on people like Big Sister Z? The sword spirit became serious this time. He said, Z Xiecheng's cultivation is too high. If she's injured, it won't be an ordinary injury. Ordinary heavy elixirs won't be of much help to her. Ordinary heavy elixirs won't work? Chu Yang sensitively found the key point. He said, that is to say, there are special heavy elixirs that will work? The sword spirit deeply regretted spilling the beans again. Then, I want these special heavy pills. Chu Yang said with certainty, at least 10 of them. At least 10. The sword spirit jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. You must be dreaming. Now, all of the great herbs had been refined. I can only refine 15 of those super heavy pills. Do you know? There were less than 100 stalks of the most valuable herbs that had just arrived. If it's the kind of heavy pill you need, I'm afraid at least 80 of them will be gone just like that. And that's the bare minimum. At most, he could only refine one. It can be used by Z Xiecheng to heal her injuries or improve her cultivation. The sword spirit jumped up and down. 10. At the very least. You're going to damage the foundation of the miracle medicine. What's more, those medicines aren't enough. Then one is fine. Chu Yang remained unmoved. He didn't take the sword spirit's words to heart. The sword spirit heaved a long sigh. His complexion was ashen, and he seemed to have lost his soul. It could be seen that he was extremely reluctant. Sword spirit, I don't want to do this either. But Big Sister Z is about to leave. In the future, she'll be the only one wandering in the endless sky. She'll be alone and without help. At this time, she's leaving all the heavenly treasures to me. Chu Yang said deeply, what if she's injured or bullied by others? No. Even if I refine 10 heavy pills for her, I can only guarantee her 10 chances. That's all. But the heavenly treasures that she's given me are enough to support my foundation in this heaven. The sword spirit sighed helplessly. I knew it's because of this. But at most one. There's not enough spiritual energy here. Even if you take it, it won't be very effective. So, It'll only be effective when you reach the Heaven Imperial Court? Chu Yang asked. There's such a strange thing? It's not that it can't be used here. It's just that after taking it, you won't be able to gather enough spiritual energy for yourself in the shortest time possible. So, a large part of the medicinal effect of the heavy pill will be wasted. But if Zi Xiecheng takes it when she reaches that place, it'll be easy to bring her back to life. The sword spirit explained. For example, if taking one of these heavy pills here can increase one's cultivation by 500 years, then in the Heaven Imperial Court, it can increase one's pure cultivation by 2,000 years at once. Do you understand what I mean? I see. Chu Yang finally understood. What a waste. Yes, there were some things that could only be used to their greatest effect in certain places and under certain circumstances. Just like what the sword spirit said, heavy pills. Chu Yang suddenly thought of the big clan's conspiracy. He frowned and muttered, certain places, certain environments. He started to ponder. In the temporary residence of the Ling clan, Ling Hanwu tiptoed out of the room. He didn't know what was wrong with this winter. It was almost the end of the year, but there was no sign of snow. This made Ling Hanwu very anxious. Ling Hanwu's greatest wish in life was to look at the snowy scenery with the person he loved the most. The white fairies that flew all over the sky poured out all of their feelings, all of their thoughts, all of their unwillingness, and deep love onto the white snow. From then on, he would have no regrets in life. Even if he were to die at that time, he would have no regrets. But the heavens didn't show any signs of this. It was gloomy today, and there seemed to be a little sign of snow. Ling Hanwu was going out again. A figure flashed and a person stood at the door with his hands behind his back. He looked at him coldly. You're going out again? Yes, ancestor. Ling Hanwu stood with his hands behind his back. The person in front of him was Ling Fengyun. He was also the person Ling Hanwu admired the most in his life. You're going to see that girl from the Yi clan again? Ling Fengyun asked lightly. I heard that ever since Yi Chuchen came here, you've been going to see her almost every day. Ling Hanwu's heart trembled. He felt that the elder master was not in a good mood today and couldn't help but be careful. She has no interest in you. Don't pester her, Ling Fengyun said lightly. Ling Hanwu was about to speak. But Ling Fengyun continued. The previous few times you went to see Yi Chuchen, you always brought a follower with you. Now, that follower of yours is missing. However, the follower you brought looks unfamiliar to me. He shouldn't be from the Ling clan, right? Where is he now? The corners of Ling Hanwu's mouth twitched. He said, Elder Master, that's a friend of mine. He came to the medicine banquet to broaden his horizons. That friend of yours is Mengyin, right? Ling Fengyun's eyes suddenly shone sharply. Your best friend is your love rival, right? Ling Hanwu's heart shook. He said, yes. Ling Fengyun took 2 steps and said lightly, I managed to protect you at the medicine banquet last time, but it also incurred the wrath of the Dharma Supreme because of this. This is a crucial period. Don't run around. Just stay at home. Ling Hanwu remained silent. Ling Fengyun asked, intentionally or otherwise, I heard that Mengyin has changed his name to Meng Chaoran? Ling Hanwu's whole body shook. He still didn't speak, but the expression in his eyes changed rapidly. I heard that Meng Chan. Is he Chu Yang's teacher? Ling Shuhai Pavilion continued, and Chu Yang is the descendant of Chu Xiaoxin. And that Chu Xiaoxin once killed 17 people from the Ling clan and snatched away the world's most precious heavenly wood? Ling Hanwu couldn't understand what Ling Fengyun meant, but his heart trembled a little. And Chu Yang is like the sun now. Ling Fengyun smiled lightly. So, don't go to Yi Chuchen's place. So as not to cause unnecessary trouble and cause misunderstandings. Ling Hanwu suddenly raised his head. Even his voice changed a little. Elder Master, could it be that the clan wants to deal with Meng Chaoran? You don't need to know about this. Ling Fengyun said lightly. He looked at him sternly and lectured, You are loyal and have no regrets. You are a man of character. So, even though I know that you indulge your love rival, I will try my best to keep it a secret for the sake of the woman you love. But now is an unusual time. The Yi clan has already sensed something. It's not suitable for you to interfere. Ling Fengyun let out a long sigh. Hanwu, you are a junior that I like very much. I also know that I can't force you. A person only has one true and unforgettable love in his life. You have already had it. Don't keep thinking about it. Ling Hanwu was stunned. Suddenly, his mind was in a mess. He said in a hoarse voice, "The Yi clan already knows about this? How did they find out?" Ling Fengyun frowned. "You don't need to know about this." Ling Hanwu lowered his head dejectedly and muttered, "Someone in the Ling clan betrayed me? How dare you?" Ling Fengyun shouted angrily. "You are the traitor. How can you say that others betrayed you?" Ling Hanwu smiled miserably. When Mengjing got into trouble, Chuchen wanted to commit suicide several times. She was in so much pain that she wanted to die. Now that so many years have passed, the feelings from back then have not weakened at all. If something happens to Meng Chaoran in front of her again, she will die. She will die. Ling Fengyun said lightly, "But that has nothing to do with you anymore." Ling Hanwu took 2 steps back, his face full of despair. "Go back." Ling Fengyun comforted him lightly. "Go back and have a good sleep. You will realize that everything is over. All your worries will be gone." Ling Hanwu bit his lips and suddenly chuckled. He strode forward to the door of the courtyard. He looked at Ling Fengyun with a determined gaze and said, "I want to go." Ling Fengyun's white robe fluttered in the cold wind, his gaze fixed on him. "But go." Ling Hanwu said word by word. His voice was full of determination. After the outburst, the gap between the monthly votes had widened instead. How could he endure this? "Brothers and sisters, please get the monthly votes." Ji winked with a frown to be continued. Chapter 2019. No one knew what kind of power was supporting the two of them, but they actually managed to reach Ling Hanwu. In the face of the forest of swords, Yi Chuchen stepped forward and welcomed them. "Don't disturb us, let us talk to him." Yi Chuchen's voice was choked with sobs, her body trembling as she spoke. There seemed to be a crazy flame burning in her eyes. Her voice was resolute and did not allow for any disobedience. But there was a kind of extraordinary indifference in it. A kind of indifference that made one's heart as dead as ashes. Yi Di's gloomy voice said indifferently, "Let them pass." He spat softly. "On account of Ling Fengyun, I'll let the two of you talk for the last time." But before he could say that, Meng Chaoran had already rushed over and hugged Ling Hanwu without a care. Ling Hanwu's consciousness had already started to scatter. His pupils had already started to dilate. The attack of a 3rd-grade supreme martial artist was far from what a 7th-grade martial saint like him could withstand. But the moment he saw Meng Chaoran, his eyes suddenly focused as if miraculously. There was anxiety in his eyes as he roared, "Why do you care about me? Why aren't you leaving?" He was roaring, but his voice was pitifully soft. "I'll send you off first." Meng Chaoran took a deep breath and exhaled gently, afraid that he would disturb his brother or use too much force and take away his brother's last chance of survival. "I'll send you off. Hanwu, today we're leaving together." Ling Hanwu wanted to turn his head anxiously, but he couldn't. He could only move his eyes slowly and scold angrily, "You stupid bastard! Where's Chuchen? Where's Chuchen? If we're all dead, what will happen to her? What will happen to her?" "I'll accompany you." Yi Chuchen walked over lightly and squatted down. She said gently, "Brother Hanwu, let's go together. The road to the Yellow Springs is long, you'll be lonely and scared if you travel alone." "But I'm not scared." Ling Hanwu didn't know where the strength came from, but he actually straightened his neck anxiously. "Don't die. You have to be happy. If you die, I won't die in peace." Suddenly, he stared at the snowy night sky and roared, "Wretched heavens! I won't die in peace." Yi Chuchen's tears dripped down. It dripped onto Ling Hanwu's face. Ling Hanwu's gaze became unfocused. He murmured, his heart aching, "I'm most afraid of you crying, I'm most afraid of you crying, because I was afraid that you would cry, I quit. Because I was afraid that you would cry, I fulfilled your wish." Because I was afraid that you would cry, I covered for my love rival to escape. Because I was afraid that you would cry, I secretly brought my love rival to meet you. Because I was afraid that you would cry, I gave up everything for you. Because I was afraid that you would cry, I was lonely for the rest of my life. Because I was afraid that you would cry, I gave up my life, but you still cried. Don't cry. Ling Hanwu's eyes were unfocused. He murmured, Big brother Hanwu will give you what you want. Don't cry. Yi Chuchen's tears fell like rain. Meng Chaoran held Ling Hanwu's hand tightly. Tears streamed down his face as he desperately channeled his internal energy into Ling Hanwu's body. But slowly he felt it. Ling Hanwu's body had actually started to reject the vital energy. His life force was about to disappear. Ling Hanwu frowned in pain. It hurts so much. The strong wind swept up the snowflakes and blew them onto his face. The bone-piercing coldness cleared Ling Hanwu's mind. His eyes looked at the snowflakes in the sky in a daze. A hint of gentleness appeared in his eyes as he murmured, I really want to go see the snow with you. In the last moments of his life, his last obsession was actually this shattered dream. Yi Chuchen held Ling Hanwu's hand tightly. Tears fell like rain as she cried, Big brother Hanwu, I'll go see the snow with you. I'll go see the snow with you right now. But Ling Hanwu could no longer hear what she was saying. Only his right hand suddenly grabbed Meng Chaoran's hand desperately. With the last of his strength, he said, Take her. He suddenly panted heavily, but only exhaled and not inhaled. His eyes were wide open. You have to avenge me with your own hands? You must. His body trembled. His eyes were wide open as he lost all signs of life. His hand slipped from Meng Chaoran's hand and fell onto the snowy ground. He touched the cold snowflakes. His expression was pained, just like his hand. He touched a shattered dream. You have to avenge me with your own hands. Meng Chaoran closed his eyes in agony. Hanwu, even when you were on the verge of death, you still put in so much effort. You know that with my weak cultivation, how can I avenge you with my own hands? I need at least several thousand years of cultivation. That way, I can live for several thousand years. Several thousand years to take care of Chu. That's what you think, right? After you died, you even set a goal for me so that I can have a goal to live on. But the current situation, Ling Hanwu's body gradually cooled down, but a figure seemed to appear before Meng Chaoran's eyes. Back then, the tall and handsome second Duke Ling, who was dressed in snow-white robes and had long sleeves that fluttered in the wind. Ling Hanwu, when he sent him off from the upper three heavens, smiled and said, Take care. Big brother Hanwu. Yi Chuchen shouted. Suddenly, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Meng Chaoran squatted down, stupefied. At this moment, his thoughts suddenly became very far away. Back then, they laughed and laughed together. They were young and frivolous together. They fell in love with Yi Chuchen together. Then, everything changed. He was the one who saved his life. He was the one who covered his escape. He was the one who took care of him and helped him escape from the upper three heavens. He was the one who secretly allowed him to meet Chu, and he himself was secretly hiding at the side, his heart broken. Back then, when he escaped from the upper three heavens, he said to him, Hanwu, I'm afraid I won't be able to come back after I leave. You have to take good care of Chu. At that time, he was furious. Bullshit. If Chuchen's heart was with me, I would marry her even if you didn't say anything. If her heart isn't with me, what's the use of marrying her? Do you want me to become someone worse than a pig or a dog? Mengjin, if you're a man, become strong and come and take Chuchen away. I already hate you to death, but don't make me look down on you again. Let me say the ugly words first. After you leave, if Chuchen can be moved by me and change her mind and fall in love with me, don't blame me for snatching her away. But if her heart doesn't change, then we'll wait for you to come back. Take her away. If you don't look for me when you come back and lose your life in vain, I'll hate you for life. I'll dig up your grave. I'll grind your bones to dust. Mengjin, I've never been brothers with you. We're love rivals. We can't live under the same sky. I hate you. I can't wait to tear you into pieces. But I'll still help you. Meng Charon's face was contorted. Tears flowed down his cheeks and into his mouth. It was bitter. He remembered when he went up to the upper three heavens again and drank with Ling Hanwu. Ling Hanwu smiled bitterly as he drank. At that time, he sighed and said, "It's said that a woman's heart changes easily. But once a woman's heart has given, it really won't change for the rest of her life. A woman who changes her heart, it's because she doesn't love deeply." Every time they were together, every time they drank, Ling Hanwu would say, "I really want to kill you. I really want to torture you to death. I really want to tear you into pieces. You should die in the lower three heavens. Why don't you die in the lower three heavens? Why don't you die?" But every time, "He'll still help me." He even said, "If Chuchen really changes her heart and follows me, then she won't be cute anymore. But even if she's not cute, I still dream of having her. As long as Chuchen is willing to follow me, I'm willing to use my whole life to get her back and transfer her feelings for you to me. But she's not willing. You didn't let me down. It's me who let you and Chuchen down. Without me, your clan wouldn't have been destroyed." But after he said that, he continued to explain himself. "Actually, there's no one between us. It's just fate that makes a fool out of us. Chuchen didn't fall in love with the wrong person. It's the Yi clan that's a bastard. It's me who fell in love with someone I shouldn't have and couldn't extricate myself." But being unable to extricate oneself is also happiness. I know that although you can't see it, but every time you think of Chuchen, your heart is filled with motivation and happiness. But do you know me? Every time I think of Chuchen, my heart aches and I feel like stabbing myself with a sword. That time, Ling Hanwu drank and smiled bitterly. "My name is not good. Ling Hanwu. I was born in the extreme north. Hee, dancing alone in the cold snow. A lifetime of struggle, a lifetime of suffering, a lifetime of loneliness. Ling Hanwu. In the early morning of the night, I sing a song, who pitted my heart already like dirt." This poem was Ling Hanwu making fun of himself. That day he was drunk. He scolded himself when he was drunk. "Happy little." He always said that about me. With strong and undisguised jealousy and hatred. I didn't know at that time that my family was destroyed and I was alone, running away like a dog. How was I happy? But I finally understood that compared to you, in a certain aspect, I'm much happier than you, because I had a dream and you didn't. You loved your whole life, you suffered your whole life, you were in despair your whole life. You struggled your whole life. If there's a next life, I'm willing to do this for you. You're worth it. Meng Charan stood up slowly and unbuttoned his clothes. He slowly took them off and laid them on the ground. Then he carefully lifted Ling Hanwu's body and placed him on his long robe. Then he carefully fastened the buttons and covered Ling Hanwu's battered chest and back. Then he reached out and touched Ling Hanwu's wide-open eyelids. He murmured, "Brother, rest in peace, I'll be right there. What I owe you in this life, I'll repay you in the next life." But when his hand touched Ling Hanwu's eyelids, Ling Hanwu's eyes opened again. This happened 3 times. Glaring at him angrily. This pair of lifeless eyes was actually glaring at him so angrily. Meng Charon's heart shook violently. He was in a daze for a good while before he finally murmured, "You still want us to live on? Is that so? Is that so?" He said sadly, "Then Hanwu, don't worry. I'll do everything I can to live on with Chu Chu. Cultivate hard and take revenge for you with my own hands. Okay? Are you at ease now?" His hand touched Ling Hanwu's eyes again. This time, miraculously, Ling Hanwu's eyes quietly closed. His stiff cheeks also seemed to have calmed down a lot. "Do you trust me that much?" At this moment, Meng Charon's heart suddenly felt like it was being cut by a knife. It shattered into pieces. Chapter 2020. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Ever since Chu Yang was reborn, he had never considered this matter. Xiekuan nodded. Or rather, there was no such thing in his memory. Until just now, when Mo Qingwu said, "For you, I will dance to the heavens. Chu Yang was suddenly enlightened when he heard this sentence. When he thought of this poem, he thought of this person. Shui Leihan. So he had always neglected this person. But when he thought of Shui Leihan, Chu Yang immediately thought of many things. Only then did he realize that there were too many differences between this life and his previous life. In his previous life, he was the poisonous sword revered martial artist. Although his name was famous, he was only a revered martial artist. However, he was able to roam freely in the lower three heavens, and even some places in the lower three heavens. There were no king-level experts in the lower three heavens at all. When Mo Tianji ambushed him, he only sent 3 king-level experts. But in this life, Mo clan had more than 3 king-level experts? They even had emperor-level experts. In the upper 3 heavens, king-level experts were not even worth mentioning, emperor-level experts were not worth mentioning, monarch-level experts were just SOSO, saint-level experts were common, supreme-level experts. Looking at it now, there were probably thousands or even tens of thousands of them in the entire upper 3 heavens. In his previous life, there were 2 legends, Supreme Martial Artist Qin Feng and Supreme Martial Artist Lu Yun. The legends of the current generation Supreme Martial Artists were only Ning Tianya and Bu Luqing, and now? Perhaps he was ignorant in his previous life, and when he came to the upper 3 heavens, he was like a rat crossing the street, dying before he could even get the 5th fragment of the sword. But legends were legends after all. Was he that ignorant and inexperienced? And most importantly, Shui Leihan. Such a peerless talent, such a famous figure, actually did not exist in this life. Absolutely not. Completely not. Why was that? Thinking of Shui Leihan, Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly felt a vague sense of familiarity. That fortune-telling old man, Xiao Yun Mo Qingwu, on the road of 3 lives can mend the heavens, yin and yang needs to cherish the beauty, evil aura, do not speak nonsense. So familiar, Shui Leihan. It's you. Chu Yang was stunned. He was now 100% sure that the old fortune-teller whom he and Zi Xiecheng had met in Tianji City was the one who had befriended him in his previous life, the number 1 genius in the world, Shui Leihan. But at that time, he didn't recognize him. Who was he? What exactly was going on? Chu Yang's mind suddenly turned into a mass of paste. The more he thought, the more confused he became. The more he thought, the more he didn't have a clue. He could only faintly feel that if he could solve all of this, then he would discover an earth-shattering secret. At this moment, Mo Qingwu said, "That person is so strange." Chu Yang was startled. He looked up. A few hundred feet in front of him, there was a white-clothed man walking on the snow. This road was the only way to the medicine banquet. At this moment, there were many people on the street. Although it was early in the morning, it was very lively. However, this man in white walked among the bustling crowd with a warm smile on his face. He looked very amiable, but it felt as if he had been lonely for tens of thousands of years. He did not fit in with everything around him. This person stepped on the white snow, crunching as he walked. Every step he took left a deep footprint. It should be very strenuous to walk like this, but looking at his posture, he was like a spring breeze, so leisurely and relaxed. It is very strange. Alarm bells rang in Chu Yang's heart. If he guessed correctly, this person should be an extremely dangerous person. While he was thinking, this man in white had already walked to a place not far in front of them. He suddenly turned his head and seemed to have noticed the 2 of them. He smiled and said, "What a little girl in red, you are really as cute as a fairy." Mo Qingwu blushed and hid behind Chu Yang. She only secretly revealed half of her face to look. Chu Yang smiled and cupped his hands. "You flatter me, may I know who you are?" The man in white smiled and said, "Medicine master, not up to standard." He seemed to be smiling bitterly, but was full of confidence. He said, "I didn't even pass the first round and was eliminated, so I went to watch the fun." Chu Yang smiled. "I see." He said, "Why don't we go together?" When he said this, the man in white also happened to say, "Why don't we go together?" The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled. Chu Yang's smile was tolerant and friendly, while the man in white smile was gentle and warm. But when Jianghu saw the two of them smiling, she suddenly shuddered. The two of them walked side by side. The man in white smiled and said, "Brother Chu, you are going to win the championship this time. I am here today specially to cheer you on." Chu Yang revealed a surprised expression and laughed. "So you know me?" The man in white shook his head and laughed. "Brother Chu, you are the best. How many of the medicine masters in this Tianji city don't know you?" Chu Yang laughed heartily in a very comfortable manner. He said, "It depends on luck. Not necessarily, there are so many experts, I am not confident at all." He said that he was not confident at all, but his voice and expression were obviously fake modesty, obviously full of confidence. The man in white lowered his head and didn't seem to look at him. He said, "Brother Chu, you don't have to be so humble. With your attainment, it is not difficult for you to become #1 in the world." At this moment, someone suddenly called from the roadside, "Hey, Brother Lu." The man in white stopped and said apologetically, "Brother Chu, I met a friend." Chu Yang hurriedly said, "Brother, please go ahead." The man in white smiled apologetically and hurriedly turned to the side of the person who called from the roadside. The two of them were very intimate, as if they had met after a long time. Chu Yang and Jianghu continued to walk on the thick snow. The two of them were still talking as usual. They turned a corner and entered another road. They were only a few hundred feet away from the medicine banquet. At the roadside just now, the man in white was still smiling, but his face had already become cold. A black shadow appeared silently and asked with a smile, "Brother Wu, is it?" The man in white shook his head and said, "I don't think so. But this little one hid very well. You guys, he is a first-stage martial monarch, but there is a hidden sword will on him. Looking at the situation, his real cultivation is definitely at the level of a sword saint, and not lower than the 5th stage." The man in black heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Then I am relieved. A sword saint is not scary. But since he is a sword saint, he must have come from the path of a sword emperor. And the calamity sword master can never become a sword emperor." The man in white said, "Yes. So this Chu Yang is definitely not the calamity sword master. But this young man is definitely not even 20 years old, and he already has such a shocking cultivation. And he also has the inheritance of the medical sage. He can be said to be the one and only genius in this world. If this person develops, his future achievements may not be lower than the Calamity Sword Master." When the two of them spoke, when they said the words Calamity Sword Master, they gritted their teeth and were full of hatred. The man in black was silent for a while and said, "Then, Brother Wu, have you done it?" The man in white snorted and said, "Of course I won't let him off so easily. Along the way, I have already poisoned him with 7 kinds of strong poison. These 7 kinds of strong poison are incurable. Usually, they keep each other in check and he is fine. But once the time limit is reached, they will act up immediately. Like a sudden wind, there is no recovery. During the finals, I will let him act up." The man in black heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Brother Wu, it has been hard on you." The man in white smiled lightly. "It has not been hard on me. But, to poison such a small character, it is a little degrading." The two of them chuckled and suddenly disappeared. On the other side, Chu Yang turned the corner. The sword spirit's voice, almost dripping with cold sweat, came out. "My God, I really saw a ghost." "Saw a ghost?" Chu Yang was not surprised. He said lightly, "That person just now should be Wu Jueqing, right?" The sword spirit was startled. "How did you know?" "I just know." Chu Yang smiled. "Intuition." Then he said, "He didn't recognize me." Then he said, "If he did, then I would have become a pile of rotten meat by now." The sword spirit sighed and said, "You are right. Wu Jueqing's hatred for the Tribulation Sword Master far surpasses that of this Dharma Supreme." Chu Yang said understandingly, "Because Wu Jueqing's identity is special. As the successor of Supreme Martial Artist Jin Feng, he is held in high regard wherever he goes. When has he ever suffered any setbacks or been cheated? How can he not hate someone who has been played around with his whole life? Then he asked, "What poison did he give me?" The sword spirit was stunned. "You can feel that he has poisoned you?" Chu Yang smiled lightly. "I can't feel it. Even until now, I haven't felt it at all. But Wu Jueqing didn't come specially to say these words to me. 7 types of poisons balance each other and cause paralysis." The sword spirit smiled. "But he doesn't want your life. Looks like he just wants you to compete." Chu Yang clicked his tongue and said, "Amazing! Can it be cured?" The sword spirit said, "Of course there is no problem. But this kind of poison can only be absorbed by the tribulation sword. If Wu Jueqing finds out that you are not poisoned, he will immediately know that you are the tribulation sword master. Wu Jueqing will then come and kill you. Even in the finals, you won't be able to stop him." Chu Yang pondered and said, "Is there any other way?" The sword spirit chuckled. "You can put a bottle of spiritual spring water in your arms and drink half a bottle. This kind of poison can be delayed for a while before acting up. I will draw the poison away and you will complete the competition. Even if Wu Jueqing comes and sees the spiritual spring water, he will also know the reason." Chu Yang's eyes lit up. "He paralyzed me. Feng, it shouldn't be as simple as just stopping me in the finals. But there should be other motives. Otherwise, with Wu Jueqing's status, why would he poison me? Wouldn't it be easier to just kill him?" So their target is still Big Sister Z and the rest. Chu Yang snorted coldly. "They want to use poison to blackmail us?" Chapter 2021. The sword spirit thought for a while and said, Maybe. Chu Yang pondered. Threatening him with the antidote seems too naive. It should be just a part of the plan. At this point, Chu Yang suddenly became excited. "Tell me about the symptoms after the wind. Even if I used the spiritual spring water to slow it down, it would still act up eventually. He poisoned me and I poisoned him. Isn't this a very normal thing?" The sword spirit smiled bitterly. "You even want to make use of this. You're really scheming." Chu Yang said, "I was poisoned. How can that be considered scheming?" Then he asked, "I'm the only one poisoned, right? Is Jianghu all right?" The sword spirit smiled bitterly. "Wu Jueqing is also a person of great status. Do you think he would poison a little girl for no reason?" Chu Yang snorted. "Not necessarily. I don't trust any of these people now." After receiving the sword spirit's confirmation that Jianghu wasn't poisoned, Chu Yang was relieved. The sword spirit thought for a while and said, "However, compared to being poisoned, there's another more important matter. Therefore, Wu Jueqing is here this time. We can't let him go. If there's a battle, we really have to fight." Chu Yang frowned and immediately thought of something. He couldn't help but gasp. "Sword intent." The sword spirit smiled bitterly. "I sensed the aura of sword intent on Wu Jueqing's body." Chu Yang's face twitched. He immediately felt troubled. "How can we get it back?" "There are 3 ways." The sword spirit said, "The first way is to capture Wu Jueqing and extract the sword intent from his body. He should only be keeping it for his own use temporarily and can't refine it. The tribulation sword intent can't be refined by others." "Capture Wu Jueqing?" Chu Yang smiled bitterly. "Let's talk about the second way. The second way is to kill Wu Jueqing." The sword spirit smiled and said, "The sword intent will automatically disperse out of his body and then we can collect it." Chu Yang said speechlessly, "You might as well not say it. Just Wu Jueqing's cultivation alone is already as difficult as ascending to heaven to kill him. Moreover, Wu Jueqing is the descendant of supreme martial artist Chen Feng. Chen Feng clearly dotes on him a lot, even going as far as to use the method of stealing the sky and swapping the sun to save him from the tribulation mending heavens. This is evident. If Wu Jueqing dies, how can martial sage Chen Feng let the matter rest? And supremacy Chen Feng and supremacy Lu Yun are husband and wife. Am I supposed to fight Chen Feng and Lu Yun with my current strength? Let's consider the third option." Chu Yang smiled bitterly. "The third method is to reveal your identity as the Tribulation Sword's master and use the Tribulation Sword to absorb the energy swords. the sword spirit explained. He laughed bitterly. Also, I'm not sure. The distance must be within 1,000 feet. Black lines appeared on Chu Yang's face. This third method makes my crotch cramp even more. Is there a fourth method? No more. There are only 3 ways. The sword spirit was very straightforward. Chu Yang was speechless. He asked the heavens, "Aren't you fucking cheating me? My insignificant strength is enough to dominate the lower 3 heavens. But, asking me to kill Wu Jueqing? Don't you think it's a bit too much to ask?" The sword spirit said submissively, "But you still have experts by your side." Chu Yang was speechless. He rolled his eyes at him and sighed heavily. He pulled himself out of the tribulation space. He didn't want to waste any more words with the sword spirit. They were already at their destination. No one was allowed to spectate the finals of the medicine banquet. This was the rule. However, even though the rules were as such, there was still a sea of people present. Heavy snow fell from the sky, and the ground was full of people. Chu Yang whispered into Emo Qingwu's ear, "Qingwu, I will enter the finals later. Your teacher will come to find you. Remember to tell him that Wu Jueqing is here." These 5 words. Let him pass the message to Moon Breeze. Don't let anyone hear it. Do you understand? Emo Qingwu's eyes flashed with doubt, but she nodded heavily. "Brother Chu Yang, don't worry. I will definitely do it." But Chu Yang turned and walked toward the finals. Emo Qingwu waved her little fists behind him, jumping and shouting, "Brother Chu Yang, go for it." She attracted a lot of attention. The little girl didn't care at all. Chu Yang smiled and entered the gate guarded by the Medicine Valley's personnel. The other pharmacists who were selected that day were already present. Seeing Chu Yang walk in, everyone's expression was heavy, full of vigilance. Although they had already experienced it once, compared to this young man in front of them, they really felt that they had no chance of winning at all. The last time, half the time and twice the results. It almost destroyed all of this pharmacist's confidence. And this time, this was a finals with even more significance. It directly involved the ownership of the title of the #1 pharmacist in the world. After the finals this time, the refinement of the heaven-nourishing jade began immediately. Once the heaven-nourishing jade was completed, the nourishment of the heavens would begin on the 3rd day. It would complete the magnificent feat of nourishing the heavens in the history of the heaven-level continent. All of this glory would fall on the head of the champion of the finals. The snowflakes became denser and denser. In the end, one couldn't even see clearly on the other side. Such heavy snow was truly a rare sight. In the vast expanse of whiteness, the finals of the medicine banquet finally began. The high priest of the Medicine Valley personally came to greet the 10 people to enter the designated environment for the finals. As Chu Yang walked in, he turned his head and looked back as if he had a telepathic connection. He saw a red shadow swaying in a distant place. A crisp voice came from afar. "Chu Yang, go for it." It was Emo Qingwu's voice. A smile appeared at the corner of Chu Yang's mouth. This little girl had finally revealed her ambition. She thought that I couldn't see her. She actually started to call me by my full name. With a smile, Chu Yang entered the arena. Outside the arena, at the top of a big tree covered in snow, Bu Luqing, dressed in green, stood with his hands behind his back. Emo Qingwu stood beside him. Her petite figure looked even more delicate in the white snow. At this moment in the cold weather, the little girl breathed out hot air. Her face was flushed with excitement. There was a kind of infinite tenderness surging in her heart. He called his name. I don't want to call him Brother Chu Yang anymore. I want to call him Chu Yang. This is more like how husband and wife address each other. Sister Wu Qianqian has ambitions for him. She thinks that I can't tell? But how embarrassing. At the thought of these 2 words, the little girl was so embarrassed that she felt as if she had a fever. She felt her body go soft and she actually almost fell from the treetop. Bu Luqing was shocked. He pulled her back. The little girl didn't fall from the sky. Supreme martial artist Bu was extremely puzzled. Although I haven't given this little disciple of mine a huge boost in cultivation for the time being, she's already a first-grade martial saint. Why is she standing on the tree with such a cultivation? She's actually going to fall. It's really strange. Under the high priest's lead, the 10 people entered the arena. Then, the high priest led them. They walked into the huge palace that was almost made out of an entire mountain. Along the way, there were many sentries. At the outermost periphery, there were monarch-level and emperor-level experts. As they went in, as the line of defense shrank, it became martial saint-level experts. There was a whole line of such lines of defense. When they entered the palace, Chu Yang realized that in every corner outside the palace, there was a person standing there. He stood there with a solemn expression, not moving at all. The fluttering snow had almost buried them. It could be seen that before the finals, they had already been here for a day or a few days. They were only guarding this empty field to prevent anyone from sneaking in. These people, every one of them was a supreme martial artist. Such a tight defense made Chu Yang feel startled and alarmed. Upon entering the main hall, a fresh and warm wind suddenly greeted them. There was also a strong fragrance of flowers. The fragrance of herbs. There were more than 10,000 types of elixirs in the medicine banquet. There were hundreds of thousands of types. There was definitely more than one stock of each type. They were all in this main hall. There were so many types of elixirs. Every type could be said to be a heavenly treasure. Most of the big clan stores for 1,000 years, all the resources of the Medicine Valley for 1,000 years, all the heavenly treasures that the Zhuge clan had collected for 10,000 years. They were all here. The elixirs here were enough to make anyone in the world so excited that they would have a nervous breakdown at the sight of them. None of the spirit medicines were packed into boxes. They were laid out in circles, naked, with their roots, tubers, flowers, and petals all exposed. At a glance, one couldn't even see the end of them. They were densely packed together, and yet the medicinal energy didn't dissipate in the slightest. And the medicinal properties weren't messed up at all. Although the elixirs were tightly packed together, they seemed to maintain a safe distance from each other. This was the biggest characteristic of heavenly treasures: vitality. Only with this characteristic could a stock of elixir be qualified to be called a heavenly treasure. Furthermore, each and every stock of spirit medicine was full of vitality under such circumstances. Some sprouted buds, some even sprouted new branches, and some even bloomed flower buds. It was cold and snowy outside. Inside, tens of thousands of elixirs were actually flourishing. Among them, there were actually clusters of flowers blooming. Just like spring. This was just a very ordinary space. There was nothing special about it at all. How could this be? Looking at the clusters of blooming flowers opposite him, Chu Yang almost suspected that he was dreaming. In the middle of the main hall, there were 10 pillars with a radius of 10 feet. They were 50 feet tall and emitted a dark brown glow. It was unknown what material they were made of. At the top of the pillars, there was a huge lotus. A strange aura was constantly being sucked in from all directions into the lotus land. The high priest's expression was solemn. He coughed and said, "Everyone, now is the finals of the medicine banquet. This is the location of the great heaven-turning array. Everyone, where you are, is the location of the eye of the array. It has been 100 years since the array was set up at the chosen location. Take the number of Grey Yuan. For 100 years, the array was buried deep underground. It absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. It invaded the magnificence of the mountains and rivers and breathed in the beauty of the rivers. It took 100 years to complete this array." Chapter 2022. Chu Yang had to admit that the other party's plan had already succeeded. Bu Liuqing's plan was originally the most difficult to move. But now, he was the first to be moved and agreed to the duel. With news of Ning Tianya, and bad news at that, Bu Liuqing would crawl over even if his legs were broken. And once he went, if he could not achieve his goal, Bu Liuqing would rather die than retreat. There was no doubt about this. This meant that Bu Luqing was already locked in this duel. As long as the other party was strong enough, they could kill Bu Luqing there. But in the face of such feelings, how could Chu Yang dissuade them? Chu Yang sighed. You only invited yourself? Ning Tianya said, no, there's also the Moon Breeze couple. The Dharma Supreme invited them to end the 10,000 years of enmity on the same day and at the same place. 10,000 years of enmity? Chu Yang asked in surprise, what enmity do they have? The Moon Breeze couple's teacher was the previous Dharma Supreme. Bu Luqing sighed. He died in the hands of this Dharma Supreme. Today, the Dharma Supreme has spoken of this matter clearly. Chu Yang sighed, his mouth full of bitterness. In that case, the Moon Breeze couple also have to go. They have to go. Bu Luqing nodded heavily. And it's also a duel to the death. It's just a duel and 3 out of the 4 experts on our side have been taken away at the same time. Chu Yang was a little speechless. Haven't you considered that this is a huge trap that's enough to kill all of you? Bu Luqing looked up at the sky and said indifferently, a real man has to do what he doesn't do and what he must do. It's enough to have a noble heart and a stable conscience. As for other things, if necessary, even if I die 1,000 times, I won't look back. This duel, even if I know it's a trap, I still have to go. Bu Luqing said word by word, even though I know that I will die if I go, I still have to go. Chu Yang sighed. He understood Bu Luqing and the Moon Breeze couple's decision. Just like him, if the other party had made the duel with the safety of Meng Chaoran, Gu Duxing and the others, would he have gone? There was no need to doubt it. There was no need to consider it at all. It was precisely because he understood that he felt powerless. Because Chu Yang was certain that as long as the 3 of them went, they would definitely be buried in Mount Xingyun. Previously, he was still considering it. What kind of method did the other party have to use to force these people to the point that they couldn't even escape? But now, it seemed to be a simple matter. For people like the Dharma Supreme and Wu Jueqing, once they agreed to a battle, they would definitely have absolute confidence in winning. It could kill the enemy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved at all. Chu Yang, if I unfortunately die, Qing Wu, I'll leave him in your care. Bu Luqing said indifferently, if old Ning is still alive, he will naturally come back. If he is dead, little Wu will only have you in the future. You must not bully her. Chu Yang still hadn't answered. The door to Yu Lingshue's room opened. The Moon Breeze couple led Wu Qianqian out slowly. The husband and wife were dressed in snow-white robes. As they stood in the snow, it was as if they had become one with the world. Feng Yuro said, Chu Yang, I have a presumptuous request. Chu Yang smiled bitterly, please go ahead. 3 days later, I will head to Mount Xingyun with Zhang Yang. A battle with the Dharma Supreme. This trip bodes ill rather than well. If the 2 of us die in battle at Mount Xingyun, then I'll leave Qianqian to you. Feng Yuro stared deeply into Chu Yang's eyes. Chu Yang, don't forget your promise to Qianqian. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. He hadn't done anything yet and 2 people had already come to entrust him with his orphanage. I don't care if you have multiple wives. I don't care how you arrange them. I don't care about your scruples. Feng Yuro, this woman who had always been weak, showed her tough side at this moment. She said decisively, anyway, you have to give Qianqian. Leave a place for her. Let her be happy. Let her be happy. Master. Wu Qianqian called out. Her tears were about to fall. She was about to cry, but immediately blushed in embarrassment. Chu Yang sighed deeply. Suddenly, he said in an earth-shattering rage, are you so sure that you'll die this time? You can't wait to entrust me with your orphanage. Do you know that you are extremely lacking in self-confidence? If you don't even have confidence in yourselves, how can you defeat the enemy and return victorious? Motherfucker, entrust everything to me. If I die, who do I entrust to? Chu Yang was furious. You are all people who can dominate the world. Don't you have the confidence to return safely after killing all the enemies? You have Lady Z by your side. You won't die. Bu Luqing nodded at Zi Xiecheng and said, Lady Z, I'll entrust the safety of this place to you. Zi Xiecheng smiled bitterly. What's the use of entrusting it to me? The three of you are the main force. After all, I'm about to leave this continent. If you die and I leave, then the few of you left here can only be bullied to death. Zi Xiecheng smiled lightly. Bu Luqing, Feng and you, the three of you have lived for a long time. In these years, you have enemies all over the world, right? Moreover, none of your enemies are weak. If you die and your disciples haven't fully matured, think about it, how will they deal with your disciples? Especially such a beautiful female disciple. Even if Chu Yang has 3 heads and 3 arms, he's only a martial saint. Any random first-grade supreme martial artist would be able to defeat all of them. How many of your enemies are first-grade supreme martial artists? Not to mention more, at least 100. When you go to the final battle 3 days later, can you kill all of them? Zi Xiecheng said lightly, you can go and fight, go and kill, and have fun. If you die, so be it. If you die, even if the enemy salts your corpses into bacon, you won't feel anything. But have you thought about this? Bu Luqing and Feng and you broke out in cold sweat. That's right, the three of them had countless enemies. When they were around, even if their enemies were right in front of them, they would have to kneel down and talk to them. They wouldn't even dare to cough loudly. But what if they were not around? Only a disciple with weak cultivation would be left, and a female disciple at that. The three of them didn't dare to think further. If the three of them died and Zi Xiecheng left, then what awaited Mo Qingwu, Wu Qianqian and the rest would definitely be torture and humiliation worse than death. Even Chu Yang and the rest would be the same. Death is easy to be generous. Humiliation is hard to bear. Chu Yang heaved a long sigh. Please consider carefully. But such a vengeance must be avenged. Bu Luqing gritted his teeth and took a few deep breaths. Our children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. They will only become towering trees after suffering hardships. We can't protect them forever. Some things will have to be faced sooner or later. The Feng and Yu couple also nodded solemnly. Chu Yang sighed. What was to come would eventually come. The other party had already figured out their personalities. The trap they set was irresistible no matter what. Alright, then take care of yourselves. Chu Yang waved his hand coldly. People like us also need to get used to the feeling of being alone and helpless as soon as possible. Die, let's all die. Bu Luqing and Feng and Yu couple's faces twitched. They both felt that this little guy really didn't listen to them. At this moment, in such an atmosphere of grief and indignation, they actually had the urge to slap him hard. Then, everyone stayed in the courtyard for a while. Under Chu Yang's urging, they returned to their own rooms. Chu Yang gave Zi Xiecheng a look. Brother Bu, Feng and Yu, I would like to discuss something with the three of you. Zi Xiecheng said knowingly, please wait for me here for a while. Under the confused gazes of Bu Luqing and the other two, Zi Xiecheng turned and returned to her room. Chu Yang snorted and left in a huff. In the room, Chu Yang took out 3 small balls of primordial violet vapor at the fastest speed, giving Zi Xiecheng a shock. Are you sure you want to do this? Zi Xiecheng lowered her voice. It's better than watching them die. Chu Yang shrugged. Zi Xiecheng laughed. Chu Yang, you are really not a stingy person. You must know that this kind of thing is also a treasure even in the heavenly imperial court. Giving them these today is enough for them to form their life force origin. As long as they don't die after this battle, it is equivalent to creating a staircase for them to reach the heavens. Chu Yang smiled gently. It's better than us going up alone, right? These few people are very bad-tempered, but I have to admit that they are all good people and very cute. It's better to have fewer people like them die. Zi Xiecheng laughed. Chu Yang said, but I can't take out these things personally. Otherwise, all my secrets will be exposed. So, I will only give Bu Luqing one incomplete version of the heavy pill as a backup. As for Feng and Yu, they only have primordial violet vapor. If they are injured, I will leave the incomplete version of the heavy pill with you. Once there is a situation, you can tear open the space and go over immediately, then give it to them immediately. How about that? Zi Xiecheng said cheerfully, that would be the best. Feng and you were naturally reliable, but they were a classic example of a ruler. A ruler could be easily bullied. Before Chu Yang's power was fully developed, he couldn't take any risks. So, he could only fake Zi Sheqing to do these things. With Zi Sheqing's cultivation and identity, even if she took out the incomplete version of the heavy pill and said that it was refined by her, no one would doubt it. Because she had the power and qualifications. Besides, the heavy pill was a legend. Apart from Tribulation Sword Master and Tribulation, there were people who had seen the heavy pill before, but they weren't the only ones who had seen it. When Zi Sheqing came out again, her face was a little pale. She walked to the front of the three people and said lightly, "I'll give the three of you some small things to increase your chances of success in this battle." As she said, she flipped her hand and 3 balls of purple vapor entered the foreheads of the 3 people at lightning speed. Instantly, purple vapor rose from the 3 people's bodies. Then they sweated profusely. But it was surprisingly comfortable, as if at this moment, even their souls and divine senses were purified. Life Force Origin? Bu Luqing knew what was good and couldn't help but exclaim. My stock of manuscripts has been exhausted. Continue to work hard. 5th, 7th, 8th, and even. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.